Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to T3PO Live. Live at 5! I love it! Thank you so much for joining us here on what is going to be an amazing show right now. Hey, you know what? Hopefully you guys got all the stress from the early week out of the way here. Hopefully it's a little bit more relaxed now that Friday's just around the corner here on a great Friday Eve, as like my friends like to say. Hopefully everything is treating you well. We have an amazing array of stories from across the web. Some stuff that we've been working on for a little while. Some stuff that's like, wow, this is, didn't expect this to actually come out. So hopefully we have a nice assemblage of great stories for you that you can kind of follow along with us with. And, well, I know we have an amazing panel on the way right here. Let's go ahead and start introducing some of those members now. We have from the amazing, the one, the only Lou Wasserman's Ghost. Hello there, Lou. You are as iconic as always.
Oh, God, don't use that word. That gets my winner for most overused word.
Yes. I know you hate it. Sorry.
Well, I just hate it. Misuse. But that's just me being historical, or hysterical, as the case may be. I've been known to be both around here, right?
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciate it, good sir. Hopefully everything is treating you just about as well as everybody else is being treated today. I know it's been quite the week. There's a little story, I don't know, coming out of maybe the DC area or something like that, in which maybe had some implications for parts of the country anyway. Very, very interesting. Of course.
Culturally impactful, I think, is the word.
Culturally impactful, indeed. We are obviously talking about the 2024 election now. We're going to bring up a couple of stories that deal with it. Of course, we're going to try not to be super political on here. Just try to keep it straight and narrow for you. But we do want to highlight at least a couple of things from that whole event, let's say, because I think it is very important.
I made a discovery earlier. Was it today? Yes. Early in the morning, I was reading various articles about it.
Yes.
And this was one on the effect it would have on the relationships between us and Taiwan and the Chinese. And I learned something. It seems on Taiwan, the vice president of note at the moment and candidate who lost has a nickname that is commonly used across society and politics in Taiwan. Would you like to know what her nickname is in Chinese? Ha ha sister.
What?
H-A sister, as in her cackle. How do you like that? Hey, ha ha sister.
Ha ha
Yeah.
sister.
Somebody you would not want to share a laughing egg roll with, I guess. But anyway, I thought that was pretty funny.
Hello there. That is pretty funny. Oh, there, Follow the Bradley's fun. So you seen the chat right there?
Oh, there he is.
I didn't know if you were going to be available, but hey, if you want to go ahead and join.
He's got to sit down and relax. He took a long walk today with all of us.
Oh,
all over.
Did he?
We had a grand time going to the Grand Floridian with the Bradleys and looking at the gingerbread house and all the other offerings, and then over to the Poly by boat, and that was fun too.
Well, I sent you an invite if you want to drop by for any length amount of time. I know we were going to be talking about not maybe the Grand Floridian, but just across the way there in Seven Seas Lagoon, the Contemporary, with an interesting story that I know you guys will absolutely love. We got a couple of super chats right here. We'll go ahead and honor those right now. Samuel Maine with $3. Thank you so much, Samuel Maine. Very much appreciated. I believe that's a super sticker right there with the guy with thumbs up. Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Samuel Maine, for that. Matt B with a $4.99. I believe that's your third super chat. Is what that means. Trump talking about a World's Fair in the U.S. in 2026. Can you see it happening? Fun to think about. That would be super cool. We're actually going to talk about the World's Fair a little bit today in one of our stories. That's awesome if he's talking about that, because we haven't had a World's Fair. I mean, Lou, can you think of
the opening of Epcot?
Yeah.
Practically speaking. But part of the reason for that is why, if he did it, I think he would do it without that official name, is because the World's Fair people, the organization for it, are about as picky, corrupt, and otherwise not friendly to our politics as the Olympic people are. So, you could. What if they gave a World's Fair and no bureaucrats came? That would be the one to do.
Yeah, that's.
And I've been going to World's Fair since New York and Seattle and all of those old classics.
Oh, Lou, so, you've lived the life I've always wanted to live. That's amazing. That's great.
It reads better than it lives. But anyway.
Well, I can't wait to hear your story.
I mean, the highlights are the obscure things like the thing that was introduced at Seattle for the first time was the Belgian waffle.
Oh.
The Belgian waffle booth at the Seattle Fair was the most attended, the most sought after during that whole fair.
Well, who doesn't like Belgian waffles?
We didn't even know what they were then, is what I'm saying. That's how old it is. Sure. And the monorail that went through downtown Seattle to the fair was all of, I think, about as long as Disneyland's. It wasn't enormous, but it was fun. Mm-hmm. And my folks, being clever tour masters even then, got us a hotel room that was more or less at the non-fair terminus. So we just step out the hotel in the morning and ride over to the fair and do our thing and come home. That was fun. You could do that in Seattle safely. Those were the days.
Yeah, those must have been the days right there, because I don't know if we're going to be doing that in Seattle now. But thank you, Matt B. Very much appreciate that. Ruby Hoove with the $4 super sticker. Thank you so much, Ruby Hoove. Very much appreciate it. You've been going around here supporting all of our channels and supporting us in various ways. Thank you so much for all of that. Ruby, you are the best. Thank you for that. Also, too, Just Nita. Whoa, Just Nita, out the gate here. Crazy stuff. Thank you so much with the
that's not just Nita.
Chat.
That's the Nita.
Yeah, the Nita. I like that.
And we accept and appreciate all contributions to this enterprise, but
absolutely,
to say that she's just Nita is to discount something very special.
You know, I would agree with that. Very much so. The Nita. God bless America. God bless y'all. Love you, Vash. Love you, Lou. Thank you so much, Nina. That's awesome. That makes a man's day here. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody. Like Lou mentioned, for supporting this channel, and honestly, you know, we've been moving around the schedules here for the That Park Place Network, and I know it's been a lot for the audience to actually take in. Thank you so much for keeping on board with our schedules and following us wherever we go. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Let's see here. We have another panelist coming in. It is. Oh, the Bradley's fun. Ron! What's going on?
It's me.
You came in with the J. Arthur Rank gong preceding you. You know, you got to
Sorry
have
about that.
The shirt. You take off your shirt and get a big clapper and bang the gong. You're on.
So there you go. Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to go Hulk Hogan on us.
Oh, well, am I here? Hi. Yeah, no.
you got to work out today, my friend.
My screen isn't like it's not long enough. The picture that I sent, this is so funny. A lot of people don't know who this gentleman is.
Okay.
Out of the complete blue, ran into Brandon Straka today.
Yeah,
he pronounces his last name Straka. That was crazy. That was so crazy. So this was at the Magic Kingdom. This was after my live stream. And for those people that don't know, Brandon Straka is the leader of the Walk Away movement. It's a movement he accidentally created. I don't think he meant to do this. It's just that back in 2016, 17, some point in time, he was freaked out. He was one of the people freaked out. He was one of the people that, like, you've seen him over the last few days on TikTok going nuts over Trump being reelected. He was like that in 2016. He went nuts over Trump getting elected the first time because he's a Democrat.
He was a lifelong Democrat.
Right, exactly. And some friends turned him on to the truth and said, "Look, dude, just don't freak out. Just watch these clips and watch what the reality is." And over a period of time, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much I was being lied to by the media." And so he ended up, I don't even know if it's really about switching party affiliation. I don't think he's a Republican. I think he just walked away from the Democrat Party and the left side of things and said, he just wanted the truth out there. Well, he did end up becoming a Trump supporter, and he actually was jailed. He was in prison, I think, for his January 6th activities. You know what his January 6th activities were? Being in Washington, D.C. That's it. There was literally nothing else. So, like I told him today when I met him, man, I hope for a presidential pardon for you. And I've been, praying for you and stuff. Nicest guy. It was so weird. I see this guy. I go in the candy store and I see him with the yellow shirt and the black hat on, and I'm like, man, his face, I swear he looks so much like Brandon Straka. And I'm looking at him, then he starts looking back at me, and I'm like, "Are you him?" And he's like, "Him who?" And I go, "Are you Brandon Straka?" He's like, "Yeah, I am." And I shook his hand, gave each other a big hug. And
because
I said,
you have to remember, he gets recognition from people who don't like him too. So he's got to be careful how he confirms his identity.
Absolutely, 100%.
And look, anybody sweaty and wearing that hat, wandering around Disney World, going crazy in the candy store, could be deadly. So he's got to be careful.
Yes, I agree. I don't exactly what my. I'm trying to not have the creeper vibe. Damn it! It's always easy, but
well,
anyway.
no, I see. I would recognize him if he had the long hair. That cap though, with the shorter hair there, that threw me for a loop. There, I didn't quite recognize him off the bat.
Yeah, he did. He used to have a little bit longer hair, and now I've got long hair. So anyway, but anyway, super nice guy.
Just going back from his prison term.
He's out, yeah, and
I mean, the hair could have been shorter.
They interviewed him and said, "Oh, that's true." They interviewed him and they said, "Brandon, you just got out of prison for January 6th. What are you going to do next?" And he goes, "I'm going to Disney World."
But first, I'm voting for
apparently.
Wow,
no, yeah,
man,
I don't. So and this was so out of the. It was so weird. Like it's if you looked up and saw any celebrity, and of course he's not a celebrity, so he's not in the VIP tour thing. Like most celebrities will have the VIP tour and some security around them. So like when I've seen what's her name, Scarlett Johansson out there, Chris Evans walking around, or anything. There's a ton of celebrities that come to Walt Disney World all the time, but he's just like, I'm just looking candy. So it was wild. So he is
hot, humid climate. Does Scarlett still wear the black tactical suit when she walks around?
No, she's usually in a t-shirt and jeans.
Good
jean
for
shorts. I will tell you this. I have been, when I was a cast member, I got to go on backstage tours of certain things. Haunted Mansion was the most telling because the cast members there told us who the worst celebrities that they've ever dealt with were. Ariana Grande, Nancy Pelosi, and Mariah Carey. Top 3 worst celebrities that they've ever had to deal with.
Wow.
I've heard Mariah Carey multiple times. And that's by Coastal Disneyland as well.
No, she's bad at both coasts.
Oh yes.
It's
never mind the Rorschach. We can have the going to a Disney park personality test, I guess, right?
I get. I've met so many celebrities in my life, and the majority of them are very nice, very down to earth people. There were a couple of them. Billy Ray Cyrus was a schmuck at the time. I don't know what he's like now, but and I understand sometimes it's just a matter of like Billy Ray got famous really fast and you're just not used to it, don't know how to deal with it. I felt awful for the Glee kids because when the Glee kids got famous, it was insane, and we've seen how that has played out over time, unfortunately. But most celebs, they get it. They're down to earth. They're cool. They, and if you treat them with respect when you meet them, then they're good. Obviously, not everybody does treat them with respect.
The attention that people get is powerfully, what's the word? Not degrading exactly, but you can't help but be affected by it. I mean, I famously grew up, from 6th grade in Beverly Hills. And tour buses go up and down your street saying that's where so-and-so used to live and that's where so-and-so lives. And if we watch close, maybe we'll get a view of so-and-so. Well, how do you grow up as a regular kid in the neighborhood and go out and play in the street with that going on? So, I've always said it's amazing to me how many people did not succumb to the disease. I've told the story. I went to the world premiere of That's Entertainment, and they had it at the Beverly Theater, which is Beverly and Wilshire, and then the party was at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel about 2 blocks down the road. They closed the streets, they put a red carpet between the theater and the hotel, and we all strolled out of the theater, and there were people in bleachers on the streets that normally I would be, it was my neighborhood. I live 4 blocks away. And we happened to walk out right behind Elizabeth Taylor. And so for that 2.5 blocks, it was constant, Liz. And I'm going, how do you live like that? And so if they go a little off.
I always think of that famous interview where I don't know if it was the actor that plays, was it Ross or Joey Tribbiani? I can't remember which actor it was from Friends, within their first year, and they became famous like super fast, and most of them were unknown, and they were on the news, and he was. I turn on the news and I'm watching, and they've got a split screen of 4 different or 6 different squares, like we're doing right now with the 3, but they have 6 on, and he's going, what is that? What am I looking at? And then he hears a helicopter outside of his house. And they're like, these are the homes of the 6 friends. And because it's local LA news or something like that. And he's like, sure enough, they're flying over my house. And I'm looking down and going, oh man, my roof really needs repairs. It's the funniest, but like, it is difficult to live without privacy. But the other thing is, when you choose a certain life, and that can happen to you, and it does. But for this gentleman that I met, Brandon, far worse than any type of paparazzi or celebrity type thing. He got actually jailed for not doing anything wrong. That's like, when you put yourself out there, I consider him a hero for just like standing up for what's right. I don't remember very many people. I don't remember hearing a whole lot of people getting jailed about the whole George Floyd thing. So why just showing up as an American citizen
on your capital, on your land,
taxpayer property that you being a taxpayer paid for, and getting arrested for that? That's weird.
And that disparate treatment might have explained.
It's supposed to be this land is your land, this land is my land.
That's the thing.
A lot of those people had served in the military.
It's very unfortunate.
Actually banned.
Oh yeah,
got killed, and it doesn't seem to matter.
Well, let's talk about a little bit. With that being said, right here we have a story out of the Hollywood Reporter going into some very interesting results on election night. Not the ones you're thinking of, but actually the viewership for some of the mainstream media. TV ratings, election night viewing drops sharply in early Nielsen numbers. This by, like I said, the Hollywood Reporter. Fox News led all the networks in prime time, but audiences were smaller across the board compared to 2020. TV viewing on election night dropped off considerably from 4 years ago based on preliminary ratings from Nielsen. Primetime coverage of the presidential election averaged about 36.6 million viewers across the big 4 broadcast networks. That's ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC, and the 3 biggest cable news channels, CNN, Fox News, and NBC. A steep drop from the 50.7 million who tuned into those outlets 4 years ago. All 7 outlets saw their numbers from 8 to 11 p.m. fall compared to 2020.
Vash,
yes?
I had this bad habit. When you put these stories on the screen, I look at what are all the other headlines.
I see.
Look at the one right in the middle of the page and just read it out loud. No, go back down.
This one right here?
There. Right below. The View hosts react to Trump win. Quote, I'm profoundly disturbed.
Yeah.
Which one? They all are.
How is that different? How is that different than before?
Yeah,
they are all profoundly disturbed.
I guess what's interesting here, and the View is an interesting one, right? Because I don't think the View's viewership has been all that good when compared to years past, because they have gone very, very partisan with their coverage.
You know what it's like? It's like the high school stamp club. The core people are going to be there through thick and thin, and other people who think, well, I might like this, and go a couple times and say, not for me, and they leave. So that top echelon of recent joiners fluctuates, but the core, hardcore philatelists, they're going to be there to come hell or high water.
Well, what's stunning to me, Lou, is that I think there was engagement with this election, maybe not quite as much as 2020, but what I find profoundly interesting is that we shouldn't be seeing a drop off of viewers. I don't think that degree. I think the only thing that explains that really is how many are kind of moving away from these mainstream media outlets for their news and their intake in terms of content, and moving to other platforms like the one you're watching right now, YouTube, or the Green Machine out there that we can't mention at all, or locals, or any of these other platforms that are out there that people are kind of are receiving their intake from. We saw some huge ratings out of X, for example. I know Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers had a stream going on there. What, 10,000 plus concurrent views? Oh, I was seeing 300,000 in other places. It was crazy. It was nuts. So people were tuning in, but they just weren't tuning into them. What do you think about that?
I was watching DJ Cobra and flipping back and forth between him and his panel and lawyer Ron Coleman.
Yeah.
Ron had Kurt Schlichter on with him too. It was great.
Oh, and he had Milo Yiannopoulos, who I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So
that's quite the person to get on there. What I think is profoundly interesting is that I think, and we saw the disparity, let's say, in coverage between the candidates from, let's say, mainstream media, news outlets, and the disparity between maybe their coverage and maybe some of these other independent outlets. Now, obviously, independent outlets are going to gear one way or another.
Taking this out of, strictly speaking, the realm of politics and news.
Sure. Yes.
People are just finding a lot of these formerly you gotta watch them events no longer so gotta watch them. I take as an example here, ABC had this problem with the coverage of the news, and they just spent, what was it, a couple of $1 billion to buy the Emmys for 10 years? What happens when nobody cares? And nobody watches? And then they have to sell ads anyway. And they say, well, we agreed to do it if it made X, but it's only going to make Y. And advertisers are going to get much pickier and have plenty of, escape clauses in their contracts that say, if you don't make this level, then we discount all these numbers we're going to pay by 20%, 30%, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's going to get even worse if there are certain entities that by law would no longer be able to advertise. I know that, a long time ago, cigarettes were taken away from the mainstream advertising, and I'm sure that was a big deal at the time. But now we have somebody who is going into office with Trump, not Trump himself, but Kennedy Jr., who might have something to say about certain things that have to do with our health and those being advertised for. And I will tell you, I've never understood advertisements for pharmaceuticals that it should only be my doctor who knows these things really well recommending them to me. I shouldn't be going up to my doctor saying, hey, I was watching TV the other day and I saw this minute-long ad for something that a half a minute of course, was the side effects and possibly death. But
you understand, the doctor's been getting the same treatment from his pill pusher, his rep. And so it's like, the patient wants it. The pill pusher wants to give me a benefit for giving it out. What the hell? The FDA says it's okay.
Legal
and of
drug
course,
dealer.
they get lobbied, and everybody is saying, "Big deal, take the money." Enough to make it add up to billions.
The advertising has been poorer than in prior years, and definitely skewed towards one direction. I think you hit that right on the head there, Ron. That's for sure. But also, too, I mean, look, if you have coverage in which you're going to, let's say, levy 78% positive coverage in one direction than the other, then okay, so every single channel that I go through is going to be saying the same message. Whereas I could go to some place like YouTube, for example, and find people either for a certain opinion or not, much more niche topics like hey, where are you going to find a theme park broadcast anywhere or a show on regular television or linear television? You're just not going to find it, right? So you have a plethora of options available. You have a plethora of personalities that can provide you insight into whatever topics that suit your fancy, whether it be theme parks or, I don't know, anime or sci-fi or genre guys, for example.
What's I think happening, and I had no research to prove this, it's just a gut feeling. For a lot of people, that's alien territory. The idea that I would get my news from podcasts or shows like this, as opposed to NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC, blah, 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 blah. is strange. Well, to adapt to something strange or even try it, you have to somehow get more comfortable with it. Well, if you get comfortable because you're interested in theme parks, let's say, or knitting or whatever, and once you're comfortable with that medium, you say, gee, I see where there's a lot of people talking about politics there too. Let me take a look. Because I know how to do it now. I've pushed all those buttons. I know what they do and what they mean. Suddenly, the learning curve shortens and the numbers go up.
Yeah.
So that Park Place is now a gateway drug to, I don't know, Daily Wire.
Yeah. Well, that's a fair point and a distinct possibility, and I think you're really onto something there, Lou. I'll close up this segment.
Oh darn!
Well, and especially as institutions
on two, not
like,
on two. Go ahead.
Institutions like Daily Wire too are moving into things like Bent Key that they have available now, where they have it is technically a non-political streaming service of entertainment that I would say it doesn't even necessarily skew towards super conservative, just that it kind of leaves politics.
It's non-political in the classic sense, meaning there isn't politics in it of any kind.
Right. Yeah. It's just, but see, the problem is, I think the far left wants to make everything political. So for them, non-political means, oh, you haven't taken a side, you must be super far right.
Well,
yeah,
to which I say after this election, the good news is you did it. You made everything political. The bad news is people don't like your politics.
Well, and I was just about to bring that up, Lou. If we look at the swing, if we look at like the trend line of where everybody went, if you are looking at the political spectrum, right and left, a lot of people tended to go right and they did left, as you can see in that map right here, as compared to 2020. Let's say also too, you can also see this in the state maps as well. There was not a single state that actually trended left. They trended the opposite direction, and it's crucial to note that as well. We are seeing. Well, hang on, just one more thing. 18 to 24-year-olds, you can see just that breakdown right there. I mean, Generation Z really did move in that direction. And again, this is the key demo that companies like Disney want the most. And yet, what are they giving us in terms of content? What are they giving us in terms of the shows, the television shows, the media that they're producing right now? It's not on this level, and they zig where it should zagged.
What it shows, who is 18 to 24? It's people graduating from college and moving into business or jobs. And they're doing that simultaneous with the worst inflation in however many years. Yeah. So that's a lesson teacher. I've always said, and recently in great detail somewhere here, how after COVID, suddenly the parks and everything, the attendance went way up because there was this huge pent up demand. And Disney thought to themselves, well, we can raise the prices. They'll buy it for any price because they want it so bad. And they were right for 6 months. At the end of that, people said, okay, I've slinked my thirst. But meanwhile, all that financial degradation that Disney's trying to compensate for, I got to do that in my own life. I got to do that in my own small business. I'm not going to be able to go every year or even twice a year or 3 times a year like I used to. I just haven't got the bucks. Well, same thing is happening here. In other words, I happen to believe that, for example, working from home instead of going into an office was changing anyway. It was going to be the way things worked. But it sure got a 5-year kick in the pants to being true sooner and faster, which left not only businesses that employ people that way surprised and flat-footed, it left the commercial real estate market flat-footed. Because if you're not going to use all that office space, why are you renting it? And if you're not using it and you're not renting it, what about all the lunch counters that used to give your people lunch when they came out of the office? And what about the Starbucks? And what about we see all of these major chains either going bankrupt or cutting back 150 stores here and 200 stores there. It's because the people physically aren't there. And whether that's more or less productive as far as the work they do is an open question. Because having had to do it sooner also meant they hadn't been trained or prepared for it psychologically either. I mean, if you're home and you're supposed to be doing X, but the kid starts crying or your favorite show is coming on in reruns, where'd that day go without my getting done what I was supposed to get done today? There's that to deal with, you know?
Sure.
But when you go to the same thing with what media you consume and where you get your information, the whole thing is going faster because they scolded, because they didn't try to educate or teach or offer an alternative, and also because with a captive media, they've had, 10, 15 years of never having to answer a hard question. I happen to think a strong opposition, no matter who they are, if they are Nazis, if they are communists, if they are whatever, a strong opposition is good for you because it makes you come up with strong replies and answers and gives you practice in being tough and resilient and fighting back. But if that never happens, because you just live in your own bubble where there is none of that, or because the media is never doing its job with you, you lose those skills. And they're not only selling what I think is a bad message, others may not. They're bad at selling it. They're bad at selling it for lack of real practice. All right, end of speech. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think that's well stated, and I think what you were saying was absolutely profound. I want to go ahead and bring in somebody here that has been waiting in the back. I don't want to be waiting much longer right here. It is the one, the only Nolan Thunder. Hello there, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have anything to say on this topic before we move on, Nolan? I definitely want to hear your thoughts as well, if you have any.
Well, I don't know how much I have to say on the topic, but I'm just so glad to see my friends here, Vash, Lou, and my good friend Apollo Creed with his American flag behind there.
It's interesting. There was, let me see. Oh yes, here we go. I think I found it. Okay. I'm gonna run the risk of playing this clip right here. Hopefully CNN doesn't call the stream. But I want to play this because I think a lot of people, they've been saying it in the chat as well. I think you mentioned it before that, you can't necessarily afford to go to like a place like Disneyland. It's interesting because there were some news analysts on the election night who were actually saying something very similar. Let me go ahead and play this little clip right here. It's about 38 seconds. Please don't drag the stream down. We'll go ahead and see here. I'm going to play it for you now.
Fair use.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. Oh, let me go ahead and get the audio. I don't know why that keeps happening. Very much apologize, guys. Here we go.
Take the white out of that.
It's just about working class people.
The gains among black men, the gains among Latino men are among people who work with their hands, who have been punished. The conversations that strike you from 15 months on the road is, I could afford a new car, but then if any prices go up, I can't take that loan. Like I cannot put, there's no way. So you're asking your mechanic, can I keep this thing on the road for a little bit longer? And your Christmas time, you're telling your kids you're getting one gift, not two. Or we were going to try to go to Disneyland, but we're not this year.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the amusement park, that's a couple hours away by car, but we're not going to Disneyland or some big thing like that. These are the conversations you're having in state after state after state with people who have working class jobs. And take the white out of that.
There you go. So
There
I thought that was
there
really
are
profound,
other
really
conversations. There are other conversations like, remember how we were going to have dinner tonight, kids? Yeah, we're just going to do breakfast and lunch lightly because that is a reality for a lot of families, more families than you could possibly know. And those people don't talk to anybody because they can't. Mm-hmm. They're not out. They're not about. They're struggling to barely feed the kids, put clothes on the back. You go to Goodwill. Go to any Goodwill store now and check out how freaking busy they are. Goodwill stores are busier than they've ever been in the history of Goodwill stores. Well, I mean, those are the shops. You can also we have bins stores here, so it's great. You can go get like 2 pounds or for 50 cents or something like that. I can't turn my camera around, but I can show you because my wife shops and resells from Goodwill, but the stores are busy. And frankly, there's a lot of good, gently, pre-loved items in there. So, and by the way, some of the best Walt Disney World 50th merch, Goodwill. It was $100 at Walt Disney World. It's $5 at Goodwill, and it was never used.
And it was $250.
Yeah,
on eBay and being ignored.
Well, I mean that's where my wife comes in. She does that, so she'll and hey, if there's somebody out there that'll pay that, great. But the fact of the matter is, the real economy for real American people has been tough, especially the last 2.5 years.
Ron, you keep reminding me of this bit in Everybody Hates Chris with Chris Rock, where he's like, when I was young, we didn't get Rice Krispies. We got crispy rice. We didn't get grape juice. We got grape drink.
Now from my era, it goes back to Eddie Murphy going, that ain't no McDonald's. where his mom makes him the all your friends have McDonald's and you got that home burger that your mom slapped together and you go outside with it and your friends are like, that ain't no McDonald's. What is that? Yeah,
Mom's like, we got McDonald's at home. McDonald's at home.
Yeah, McDonald's at home.
Yes, the McDonald's at home meme. Oh, that's so.
I'm
funny.
so sad when I go to McDonald's.
Wait,
and
it's too late now. Election's over. But if I was writing an ad like this, I think it would have said my dinner got stolen by the cam burglar.
The cam burglar. That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
actually.
Oh boy. Well, we have another story here. This one definitely more theme park centric. So let's go ahead and get over to it. This out of Walt Disney World News today. Donald Trump wins, may be first animatronic ever moved back to the center stage at Hall of Presidents in Magic Kingdom. This by Shannon Ace, November 6th, 2024. With his re-election as U.S. President, the Donald Trump audio animatronic will likely get moved back to the center stage of the Hall of Presidents at Magic Kingdom, should Disney keep the tradition. I kind of want to stop right there. For any of you who don't know, the Hall of Presidents is, or was, an opening day attraction there at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. Obviously opening with the rest of the park, I believe, on October 1st, 1971. And it was the culmination of Walt's ultimate dream. He didn't just want Abraham Lincoln, he wanted all of the presidents that had ever sat in the office up until that point, represented in some way in audio-animatronic form. For the people to see. There's a great quote when talking about the history of this. Walt was so dedicated to this idea. He was like, look, if we have to charge 75 cents per person after you actually pay your theme park admission in order to fund something like this, that might be something worth doing, because he was so dedicated to providing that Americana for the public and really reinforce those patriotic ideas that he actually had at that time. Well, over the years, it has become more and more contentious. We'll go into the history of Hall of Presidents very, very shortly here. But guys, initial takes right off the bat for this story. What do you think might happen to the Hall of Presidents at Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World?
They're going to keep it right where it's at, because it's actually my second favorite attraction in the Magic Kingdom after Carousel of Progress, and I love that thing to pieces. So if they're going to tear it down, they're going to have to go through me to get there. So it's going to stay right there, Vash. First off.
Okay. Nolan. Gotcha.
Second off.
Woodsman, spare that animatronic. You'll be out there standing in front of them as they raise the axe.
Oh man, the amount of historic quotes I could make. That should be a movie in itself.
Anybody's thinking they'd tear it down. I'm really confused by
that. Go ahead. What makes you confused there, Luke?
I'm confused that it's in question that it would stay, just because they'd have to move Trump back. Is there an actual something concrete about this, or people just?
Well,
people thinking they'd rather have it disappear than exist as it is.
I think that's where the speculation comes from, right? Because we have seen the Story Matters initiative go out of its way to remove. Even at the American Adventure Pavilion, right? We've seen them modify that in order to showcase in what their opinion is a more diverse showing of America and Americana. We've seen them alter, Splash Mountain in order to make it Tiana's Bike Adventure. We've seen them take out the depiction of Native Americans that were formerly in place at Peter Pan, for example. We've seen them do all of these things in order to become more PC and have the parks reflect the company's values of today. I think, and it was a contentious issue back in 2016 when Trump surprisingly won. At that point, they were actually heading in the direction of, okay, well, we can go ahead and feature the first female president as part of the Hall of Presidents. It's going to be a wonderful showcase for us and our values, especially as they were changing at that time. And then Trump wins, and they were already making that Hillary audio-animatronic at the time that happened. It's kind of why the Hall of Presidents was down for as long as it was. I think it was down for, Ron, you kind of have to remind me.
It was at least 6 months.
Yeah, that was like 6 months,
longer.
right?
It was long. It was a very long time that it was down in 2016.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
2017.
As I recall, they had kind of a harbinger of there being problems with people getting up and cursing the Obama statue.
That which would and that's
they had added security because of that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Now, this is interesting too. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but every president that has been alive during the Hall of Presidents, they've asked them to record a snippet specifically for the Hall of Presidents. It's nothing. It's normally outside of anything that they've ever given in any speech. And Trump was actually the last president to do it. Obama did it. He recorded. The Obama show was a longer show, and it really gave a lot of time to Obama.
Yeah.
Trump did not get as much time. But here's the funny thing. They didn't do that with Biden. The only thing they have of Biden is the oath of office, which is public recording. The other couple other things that I've noticed in the Biden presentation of the Hall of Presidents, they spend almost no time on Biden. It's just with the oath of office. Couple weird things is that they never say that he's the current president. They say, we still believe in the idea of a president. And I thought that is the weirdest wording that I heard, because I kept listening for them to say, here's the current commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, Joe Biden, right? But they don't say that. They say, we still believe in the idea of a president. And then they go right into him taking the oath of office. And I'm like, that's just strange. Up until that point, the show is just more of a retrospective of the presidency and what it means and why it was a brand new idea. This was not a king. I actually love the presentation, because I think if you sit there as an American and you watch, you have a better understanding that this role is not the role of a dictator. It's not the role of a king. It's not the role of anything that we've ever seen before in history. It is simply a gentleman whose job it is, or lady, whose job it is to preside over the government and kind of more or less finalize decisions. It's only in the last, I would say, several cycles of presidents that they've taken a lot more executive actions, and they've taken a lot more power to themselves, regardless of who it's been.
Dare do it before.
Yeah.
They've somehow been given permission, so to speak, to take on some of these powers that are absolutely not in the Constitution. But the proof of the pudding is, if we go back to 1776 and we look at the nations that existed on the earth then and those that exist now, find me one that's gone the other way, that's survived or is doing well. I mean,
China. I don't really know much about China.
Another way than a king, really.
I don't know that they're even actually doing as well as
Well, they've gone out of their way in recent years, the leader, to get rid of anybody who might oppose him.
And I think that's why somebody like Walt had a real fondness for Americana and representing that in his parks, because the American experiment, let's say, was so revolutionary.
Well, he knew he could never become what he became any other way.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
Do you remember?
And that goes.
Do you remember what happened when they first opened the Biden show with Biden? How, I think it was the first week that Abraham Lincoln's audio animatronic failed and doubled over. It was so. Do you remember that, Vash?
I don't remember that specific incident, but they have had problems with that Lincoln multiple times.
Hey, you're naked.
I know that.
Well, the first one was a problem too. It didn't. Well, yeah.
This is the one you're seeing on screen right now. This is the 1964-65 World's Fair version of the Lincoln audio animatronic that really kind of set the stage for audio animatronic human characters later on for projects at Disneyland and so forth. It was just such a revolution at the time. I know they were doing this kind of started out as a little bit of a test in order to see if Walt's concept of, hey, bring all the presents to life would actually work out. And I believe he showed it off to Robert Moses at the time, who was in charge of the 1964-65 World's Fair, and it was like, hey, we got to have that. And Moses was able to get the state of Illinois to sponsor a pavilion and see this thing through to fruition. But they had many problems with this thing at the 1964-65 World's Fair. I guess not only were they having issues with the animatronic itself, just from a practicality standpoint, early mechanized, it's interesting because this World War II had obviously taken place, years prior, but a lot of those inventions that came out of that conflict were being declassified, and so that unlocked the potential to bring a lot of these mechanical effects that the Imagineers were toying around with or wanted to implement into the theme parks through to fruition. We saw a little bit of that with the Enchanted Tiki Room, and they were able to use some of those things with this Lincoln animatronic figure himself. But they still had a lot of problems. I think they had dirty power issues at the Illinois Pavilion right there, because New York's power grid at the time maybe not the best, but all kinds of problems. And then I believe it was the pavilion next door. Lou, you're gonna tell me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the pavilion next door was like a ball bearing company, and they were handing out these kind of these small ball bearings to children as kind of a, hey, look at our manufacturing process, isn't this great? And so children would take those ball bearings and with them to the Illinois Pavilion, that containing Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln, and actually hurl these ball bearings at the Lincoln figure, because some people felt that the Lincoln figure, because of how he moved, was an actor. Nobody had ever seen anything like that before, so they were kind of trying to see if he would actually move. That didn't work out very well.
At that point, the robot goes crazy and starts attacking the kids in revenge.
Yes, exactly.
The AI Lincoln robot.
But yeah, and then you have what would eventually, let me see here, there's a little bit beyond, International Street and Edison Square. Again, precursors to what they would ultimately do with the 1964-65 World's Fair, but there were plans to bring a kind of almost a Liberty Square vibe to Disneyland proper, not Magic Kingdom. You can kind of see they actually had a preview center, or a preview windows, I should say, that you can kind of look into and see what they had planned for International Street. This is 1956. Obviously, none of these things would come to fruition ever.
Among the things they planned was a Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
With a Chinese fortune teller.
Yep.
In a booth.
Yep.
As an animatronic.
Right. The precursor to Tiki Room.
Right.
And also the precursor to the movie Big. Oh, no, wait, that might. That's so hard. My bad.
Yeah. But I believe that was Confucius. Is that what they were going for there?
It was an idea based on, yes.
Right.
Because, of course, Confucius say was the standard joke of the era. There was nobody to claim that was culturally inappropriate or appropriating or whatever.
Right. Right.
Which is a funny thing in itself, since they were in California. I don't know if you guys know this. We all know that the first big influx of Chinese people to this country was to build the railroad, the Transcontinental Railroad.
Right.
Because A, they were good with ropes and explosives, and B, they were stupid enough to nearly blow themselves up doing it. But
yeah,
Stephen Ambrose, the historian, when he researched and wrote a great book about the building of that railroad, they had Chinese to English and English to Chinese phrase books made so that they could communicate with their workers and vice versa. What's interesting is what they chose to translate was not the same for both sides. For the Chinese, they had phrases like, yes, sir, right away, sir. I will do it for you, my noble employer. For real.
Oh, no.
And on the American side, it said, pick it up, stupid. Faster, dumbass. I mean, that was what they did. It was true. So attitudes take a while longer to change than technology. I think that you should also, as long as we're on this ancient history of Abe, know that, first of all, you talked about when they went to the speech for Biden, that all they did was this swearing in. You know, Lincoln's speech is not real. What they did is they took bits and pieces of several Lincoln speeches and cut them together to make a coherent speech. Right. And the voice, I'm trying to find a picture for you. Here we go.
It's a famous actor.
Ray Dano.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to. You can do this faster than I can, Vash. You're always you and that magic keyboard. But
no problem.
For those who don't know who Royal Dano was, except for old movies, I think probably the most prominent role he played that lots of this audience would know is that roadside preacher in Close Encounters, who's kind of saying that these alien beings are some sort of demonic threat. And he had that kind of country, but not country, stirring voice. And yeah, there he is. Good old Royal Dano. Anyway, yeah, he did the voice of Lincoln.
I thought he might have played Lincoln in a role or something. That
I think he did some. I think, yeah, but that wasn't why he was chosen. It was for his voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was not. You know, some actors sort of made a career out of playing certain presidents.
Right.
I guess it was Raymond Massey who was famous as Lincoln. Young Lincoln.
Is it Angela Bassett that narrates right now? I think I feel like that's her voice that I hear when I'm there. That she does the whole story after Lincoln, comes on.
Oh yes, you might be right about that. I'll have to look. There have been a number of narrators for the Hall of Presidents over the years. I
know she narrates a lot. She narrates a lot for Disney, like on their documentary side of things, and she has a great narration voice. But it's really good. Eventually there are going to be female presidents and things. That's gonna that's what happened when Biden. That's literally the first week that they put the Biden animatronic in, and Lincoln was talking, doing a speech. He goes, "Oh," and that's like, no,
the world never had a good definition of the word Roger Bontempi.
That's pretty good, Lou. I like that.
So it was funny. I think it's Angela Bassett.
Well, but the big controversy was that some people speculated when they finally put Trump in that it was the Hillary in pantsuit's body with an altered head on it because they were planning for Hillary to win.
Right.
Yeah, it looks very, it's questionable. Look at some of the other ones, though.
Oh yeah, the Trump figure, at least the speaking figure, they've now changed him out ever since the switch with Joe Biden to a non-speaking figure. It looks to be different. definitely a different head for sure. So I don't know if that head is capable of speaking in the way that this one was, but it was very clear that something had happened, because this figure is an embarrassment to this attraction and for Disney. And honestly, it's just a horrible showing.
Well, we can guarantee
for president.
When they took him out of the prime spot, they never ever in a million years envisioned he'd be back.
That's true.
So
that's a good point right there.
I might have been considering moving him to Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
Good one.
Let's move it over to the Biden will go in there, because that's where all the non-working animatronics go.
Well, and that's the thing. So
playing a harmonica.
So you have this show in which it could have showcased, let's say, Kamala Harris, and I think if it would have, I think the Walt Disney Company would be very pleased as punch in order to showcase that historic achievement of the first female president. But now you have somebody such as Trump, who I believe in their opinion is a controversial figure, and people have their opinions of him. Now it's like, okay, do we necessarily want to put him center stage once again? For a while there, the Hall of Presidents was actually the sitting president didn't actually have a speaking role for a lot of years. Interestingly enough, Joshua Harris actually points this out. Regardless of tonight's outcome, I stand firmly behind my stance that the Hall of Presidents should return to its pre-1993 tradition of adding new presidents silently. No current president should receive the honor of speaking alongside Washington and Lincoln. Do you think that might be a possibility?
Well, I think that's kind of it's kind of a take. I honestly think it keeps the attraction relevant, because you don't always have to like the candidate, but it gives you a reason to check it out every few years. Like it gives some sort of connection to say maybe because the point of the whole attraction is to teach history. It's the complete counter to the current culture of Disney, where they want to delete Song of the South, delete their history if they deem it problematic. This is here to show a lot of people who weren't alive during our lifetimes and educate about the history of America. And I personally think it's actually a pretty good gateway to, even though a lot of young kids, might not be as interested in find the president stuff boring. If you're more along the lines of a teenager or an adult, you get a sense of something that's current, and you can kind of get a bridge to the past and maybe realize that the rank of president isn't something just to be memed on. I would actually say keep the role around.
It would be interesting, and I would love to see. There's a section of the film portion of it before they reveal the presidents, where they do have snippets of things, little quotes that presidents have said. Teddy Roosevelt. They go through several of them, and they switch sides. They go back and forth between Democrat and Republican when they do that. And I think it would be very interesting if they would do something more like that with the animatronics themselves. All they do is they introduce them, and that's the longest, kind of most boring portion of the show, where there's just a light that goes on the face of that particular one, and they sort of barely move forward. It would be interesting if I were the Imagineer, I would maybe not have the current president speak from his point of view, but say, wow, I am surrounded by some of the greatest people in our history. Let me ask, it would be so cool. Ask Teddy Roosevelt, what would you do on the environment? Abraham Lincoln, what would you do on this? Just a couple, a little couple back and forth. That'd be interesting.
It'd be interesting, but it would remind me of, remember that show that Steve Allen used to do, where he had actors playing famous people talking about contemporary issues. I forget what it was called, but I don't think they could do that, because that really opens the door to political whatever. But Anita had the great line here in the chat. She said, "Do you think Trump's new animatronic will show blood on it and a chunk out of his ear?"
Yeah.
That's really,
definitely not.
That's really something right there.
Definitely not. Skewed over that.
I think your idea is brilliant, Ron. I would love to hear some historical figure's opinion on stuff, and especially if you got like historic experts, you know, who'd really like, ooh, let's see what this kind of thought process behind the president was in the past. Like maybe some of the older viewpoints could bring light on the current. But I just don't trust these people, because what they're going to do, it's like, let's ask them a big social issue, and then you're going to hear a person who never said something saying something misleading, and it's going to mislead someone. I think that's
and if it was
they
accurate,
use it the wrong way for sure.
If it was accurate to their time, so many of these issues literally didn't exist, or at least if they existed, in fact, they didn't exist as controversy.
True.
Go back to 18 whatever, and whoever was president, and ask him, so, sir, there's some people that say, and I hate to make our show even more controversial, but some people that say that if you don't want a baby, you should kill it in the womb. What do you think? And he would just be aghast. Who would think that?
Well, I mean,
I think it would be like, if in my head, it's more conceptual that it would just be, what advice would you give as I'm coming into the office? And it would be very short snippets of very general advice from maybe 4 different, very historical presidents of the past.
And Lincoln would say, don't go to the theater.
Oh man.
Well,
oh no.
Well,
good night, everybody. That's our show.
Let's
wrap it up.
Gracious.
And then you answer back, well, you know, I've been to Butler, Pennsylvania, so there's that.
Never change.
Where are we at here?
somewhere else, please.
Never mind. Forget it.
Okay.
Forget it.
But here's the thing. So the Imagineers of the day, the Imagineers when they were conceptualizing this show back in the late 1960s, they did an impeccable amount of research. I mean, they had to cover the gambit when it came to who was going to be represented, right? And they wanted to represent every single president unbelievably accurately. And there was no Google, folks. They had to actually go to National Geographic or articles, newspapers written at the time, libraries, and so forth. I believe they visited the Library of Congress multiple times in order to get a real good read on all of these historic figures and represent them in the best way possible in order to ensure their dignity remain true to their individual characters. And the interesting thing about, I think, the conversation we're having now is, do we necessarily trust Disney of today to do that going forward, or for historical figures that might have existed, that obviously exist in the past, do we trust them to handle those things with as much care as any other thing that they get their hands on today?
But you used a very interesting word, which is dignity. People might think that the Imagineers of yore were doing things for political reasons. No, I really don't think so. They were trying very hard to stay away from that. They knew, for example, that we've said a million times on these channels, that the audience was all over the map and they wanted to please everybody. So they keep buying tickets. But to today, when people are literally getting hired, as we learned in the D-Files and elsewhere, for their politics, if that's why you hired me, and I'm so excited that they really want me to intrude my gayness into these movies when I make them or whatever, then the standard of what's your motivating factor removes dignity in the abstract and inserts message as a positive. So you can't do that. You just can't do that.
Yeah.
And by the way, there will inevitably be people in history debunking not just Lincoln or the presidents, but everybody. There's a lot of famous people in Disney stuff. Oh, well, that Paul Bunyan was a fraud. That was really done to push colonialism, and and he was chopping down trees. My God, what a horrible climate criminal.
That darn blue ox.
David Crockett.
Yeah.
David Crockett's a big one.
He was blue. Yeah. And David Crockett went down there to kill Mexicans. And, so.
Yeah.
Nobody is safe in any period. I did find that poster you had interesting for having of everybody. Woodrow Wilson, the most prominent, right in the middle, who was a racist and a lot of other bad things. But anyway,
see, that's the thing.
It's a subject that if they had ever imagined that it would get the way it is now, they probably never would have started. I remember reading that, like you said, they do serious research. But when they were researching the real pirates of the Caribbean, you know what they found the number one cause of death was? It wasn't scurvy. It wasn't ships at sea having accidents. It wasn't cannons or bullets. It was gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we're not going to put that in a Disneyland attraction, I don't think. Thank you very much. Move on. So,
Mark Davis said something as much, when doing research for the Pirates of the Caribbean. He was very much like, these are not jovial fellas.
And by the way, this is a Hollywood thing that predates Disney. They tell the story about how Cecil B. DeMille had extensive libraries of books that he'd bought and researchers. And when they were doing some of his early biblical epics, one of the things they found is that the real Vestal virgins wore like sackcloth and very covering clothing, not the TNA burlesque stuff that's in his movies. And somebody asked him why, and he said, well, I like history, I believe in it, but you got to sell tickets. So you put the pretty girls in the flimsy stuff and you sell tickets. So there's always that compromise, right?
There is. It's going to be interesting to watch what they end up doing with the Hall of Presidents, because there have been conversations about, there were conversations in the 1970s of getting rid of Lincoln at Disneyland. They eventually did not do that, but this has always been kind of on the table.
Not for political reasons, for space reasons.
Yeah.
They wanted to put something else in there.
They wanted to put Walt Disney in there. So what's going to be interesting to see with all of this stuff is where do the values of the Walt Disney Company, especially when it comes to the parks, really lie? Do they necessarily want to keep this tradition going? Do they want to ensure that Walt's dream and his legacy remain at Magic Kingdom and representing these presidents in the way that he wanted to, or are they going to go a different direction entirely for maybe political reasons? That is going to be very interesting. We actually have
the whole. Oh, I was just going to say real quick before you get to that, just with what just happened, it's going to be interesting, not just this, but to see in general what the direction of the company is. It's weird. Like, one of the most obviously shouldn't be controversial attractions at all at Walt Disney World is the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. And I went to recently watch the Swiss Family Robinson on Disney, and it's got one of those stupid disclaimers, a long one at the very beginning of how, this may depict this. And I'm like, just shut up and let people watch the movie and decide on their own. I don't like anybody trying to decide for me what I find offensive or what I don't, what I find wrong or what I don't. Disney is making claims before their movies as if they are God Almighty himself, saying, we know what's right. And I hate that. I
totally agree. But I'm going to suggest to you that while they'd love to indoctrinate people if they could, that's not the primary reason they're doing it. The primary reason they're doing it is to virtue signal to their friends and to preempt their friends on that side even further from saying, how dare you? Don't you know that does X, Y, and Z? Let's face it, this entire Tiana adventure goes back to a lie.
Yeah,
that movie was made about post-bellum, anyway, and that is why I suggest when lies like that come up for people trying to manipulate something for their own present-day political benefit, they need to be answered immediately. They need to be shouted down with the truth, because if you let it live, people assume it's true. Look at the find people on both sides thing, which Obama was still promoting, knowing damn well it wasn't what he said, the week of the vote. You got to shut these lies down as they happen and take the hits. If you just say, that's just a bunch of nuts who do that, I don't care, then suddenly it gets out of hand. And putting aside the moral peril that puts our society in, That's something we're not supposed to be about here, let alone politics. But putting that aside, it cost them a whole hell of a lot of money, and they still haven't learned the lesson. So
Indeed. It's that they zigged when they should have zagged. The mom here with 499. Thank you so much, the mom. Very much appreciated.
So many
Guys,
great cat profile pictures tonight. It's great.
Oh, I know. It's amazing. Nita and everybody in the chat with cats. Love to see it. That guy is right. I know.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people of Springfield.
We are so demonetized now. Thank you so much, Ron. No, joking. joking.
We need a count of how many things we
cats,
said that's getting us demonetized tonight.
There's a couple things.
I love that song.
Completely fine. I do too.
I think that guy is the next great Disney ride.
Have you seen the guy in Vegas that does it with a little thumb organ, playing a jazzy version of it, and he's got a buddy on a guitar? I'll find the link. I'll send it to you.
That's great. The mom with 499. That guy is right. I know. I said it here before. My local park is $500 a trip. Yeah, talking about Disneyland and the cost of the park itself, and how Disneyland, Disney World, they're becoming very much luxury items, and because of that, people can't necessarily afford them in the same way that they did before. These institutions that people would visit with regular occurrence, now they simply can't do that. I think
and it ripples through the whole economy of that area, because if you used to go every year without fail, and sometimes twice, and now you're not, for yet another reason, and there are others, you just suddenly stepped outside of the DVC audience.
I agree.
And for every 1,000 people that don't, then those 1,000 people are not buying gas on the way.
Yes.
Or are not, it just
trickles down. Yeah. It really does impact a lot, and that's why I think the prospects of like the entire economy itself, right? I mean, I think we saw the Dow Jones jump up like 1,600 points following the election right there, and even Disney's own stock jumped up considerably. Why? Well, two things. One, I think taxes being one of them, but two, if people have more disposable income in order to engage with your products, then obviously it's better for everybody.
More money out there to buy stuff is a good thing.
Correct. There you go. I do agree. We have.
You have to be one hell of a waitress to turn the no taxes on tips into a trip to Disney World, but still, it helps.
hey,
I wonder what kind of place you're waitressing in. Wouldn't that be funny? Someplace
you'd have to be waitressing at Disney World.
And they say, well, listen, do me a favor. Instead of paying it on the bill, make it tip income. The perks money that you're going to give me. But anyway.
That's gonna be an interesting thing to watch. Speaking of keeping money in people's wallets, this is an interesting story that actually has to deal with that. It's not necessarily about people, but it's let's say it's the distribution of some wealth right here. This is a very interesting story coming out of the Los Angeles Times. Very consequential for us because, well, it has to deal with
wait. Stop the presses,
please.
A really interesting story coming out of the Los Angeles Times. I don't know. I'd have to go back to my youth.
Oh, that's brutal. That is absolutely brutal. But you're not necessarily wrong. Los Angeles Times: Will Newsom's expanded tax credit program save California's film industry? This going off of a story where Gavin Newsom and, well, I guess the California legislature have an idea of bringing back a lot of these film projects to the Southern California market, because we've seen a lot of film projects go towards different places, like Georgia, for example, or even the UK, international, and so forth. It looks like California is approaching that problem head on.
Go back up to the picture.
Okay.
If you don't recognize that, you've never seen Blazing Saddles.
Warner Brothers Studios.
That is the gate where they all come riding out. And I know because I used to park in a parking structure literally on the corner that the photographer is standing on and walk through that gate every day for 9 years. Anyway,
I've taken that tour at the studios there, and obviously never worked there, but it was a very, very good studio tour that they gave.
I want to go on the tour.
It's fun.
No,
it's fun. Who was it? Brad. God, who was some famous actor was on set that day, and he came out and talked to us. He was really nice, and I can't remember not
Brad Garrett.
No, not Brad Garrett and not Bradley Cooper.
Bradley's Fun, maybe.
No, it wasn't me. One of the famous Bradleys, though. The guy that plays in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he plays Jake's dad. That's all I can think of. Yeah. Whitford, is that his last name? Bradley Whitford.
Could be.
Anyway,
Whitford or Whitfield, perhaps.
Anyway, the story is silly because if you make your movie in, I don't know, New Orleans to get their tax benefits, it's still supporting the California movie industry because it's probably them doing it.
Yeah.
So they don't care. They care that it's cheaper. Secondly, a lot of people took this story as, oh, look, Newsom's finally doing something. Well, there you go, from $330 to $750. It's already been there. They're just upping the price.
They are.
Everybody said it was a significant move because they like money. And whether it does anything to keep things there in a big way or not is irrelevant. Anything it keeps there is something that wouldn't have been there, etc. And lastly,
this article. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say all of these programs for tax rebates or credits for bringing work to a given place, whether it's Atlanta or London, are done because the government thinks or says they think that will increase employment. They will get more jobs for the locals.
Right.
So, first of all, it's not true. By which I mean, it is true they do get employment, but the amount of value the employment brings to the state is never the equivalent to what they give up in these credits. And that is true for movies. That is true for stadiums. That is true for all of these government encouragement funds that encourage their buddies to build things and do things. So that's my cynical and factual point of view.
Oh, no, I think you're fine. And I think the article actually makes reference to some of that. We'll see here. On Sunday, Newsom declared his intent to increase the yearly limit to $750 million from $330 million in terms of a credit towards these productions. This, by the way, written October 28th, 24, a little older, but still relevant indeed. Many in the industry welcome the announcement as a significant move in the right direction, while acknowledging that there is more work to be done. Newsom and other officials have faced growing calls to expand California's film and TV tax credit program as local production has struggled to rebound in the wake of last year's strikes by Hollywood writers and actors. Also, too, COVID definitely hurt them for sure. Amid mounting pressure from Hollywood to bring production and entertainment back to California, Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled plans Sunday to significantly raise the annual cap on the state's film and TV tax incentive program during a news conference held at Hollywood's Raleigh Studios. Lou, I'm sure you're gonna correct me if I got that wrong there. And intended by
Raleigh
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
Raleigh, like Sir Walter Raleigh, Vash.
Oh, Raleigh. Okay. Attended by Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, as well as several entertainment union officials. Newsom declared his intent to increase the yearly limit to $750 million from $350 million. It's interesting. There's a quote right here. "It's a start," said Lindsay Darity.
So are 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean, but that doesn't make it good.
It's a start.
You just do it right in there.
Not Ron Coleman.
No, yeah. Let's spin
Can
around there.
Wait, you have to remember it's the Teamsters boss. Well, it's a start, but you could do more for us if you really tried.
Oh, that's more accurate.
We wouldn't want anything
Rob,
to
what were you
happen
gonna
to
say?
your sitcom there, fella.
Just one thing about the problem, like the Hollywood, they talk about the writers' strike, and they,
Yes.
and you had mentioned COVID, but there's one other thing that I think is really hurting the studios too, and that is 95% of everything coming out of them suck.
There you go.
Okay,
Absolutely,
so
100%.
that's probably more than anything else is they can't write and they can't act.
Its
and do it.
suckiness does not
Correct.
depend on how much of a tax credit Gavin Newsom gives him.
No,
Right.
it's just
Right.
more suck.
Yes, that's kind of the heart of the issue, right? Because it's like it doesn't matter how much money you give them, as we've learned from Disney, for example, with throwing hundreds of millions of dollars more per production than they possibly ever should. It doesn't help these films or content be any better when you have, writers who can't write, for example, or you have a production team that doesn't know what it's actually going to shoot by the time they actually get to production, and they have these cost overruns, these redevelopments, these reshoots, and so forth that really do stifle those productions. But it's a start, said Lindsay Dougherty, principal officer of Teamsters Local 399, which represents studio drivers, location workers, and other Hollywood crew members. For California to be competitive with the other countries, we might need more money down the road. But this is good news. In a very bad time in a 4-hour members, that are not working and haven't been working for quite some time. Rebecca Ryan, Western Executive Director of the Directors Guild of America, agreed that raising the limit, quote, may not be the entire solution, but it is a very, very important first step. Like we said just now, is this really going to move the needle?
What's the second step is the next question. It should have been asked
That's
by the ever interesting LA Times, which I might add makes a huge portion of its ad revenue from what? Ad movies.
Indeed.
So everybody's got a place in this deal. Yeah,
Sure.
Fine. Go ahead, do it. But don't expect people to be dancing in the streets because suddenly they're working and they weren't otherwise. It ain't going to happen.
And as I said before, and I think Ron was right about this as well, it really comes down to the quality of the entertainment, right? And in terms of having these things be successful, Hollywood is always going to look to lower whatever burden that they have when it comes to taxes and so forth associated with wherever they shoot, but bigger issues.
But I will take issue slightly with the language. The quality of the entertainment is in no way dependent on how much money they spend. Spending $400 billion on a bad script doesn't make it a better movie or more appealing than $200 million. In other words, you got to have the economies in place anyway, and then pick something that has a future. So
that's a great point. That's a very good point. I think it's the most important point from this whole thing. Just because you throw a lot of money at something does not mean it'll be any better.
And if recent history is our guide, it's more likely to be worse.
That's a good point as well. That's a really good point as well.
The real
just ask Caroline Reed.
Are really stinky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
Expensive.
It is. And I will say this. I would say the closer that these things are to Hollywood, maybe that doesn't. Maybe that. I don't know how much of an impact that has on the quality of the content, because obviously everybody is from Hollywood anyway. That's part of these productions. But I would say that the closer to Hollywood that these things are, I don't know if that's necessarily better for that content going forward, especially as we look at the results from Tuesday.
Well, look, it's not about Hollywood per se. It's about human nature. You would probably, if you were hiring people to work in your business or even in your department within a larger business, you would hire people like you. People who seemed you could get along with, people who had the same worldview, people who had the same references and the same sense of humor, because that's just what human beings do. You wouldn't hire a jerk who could be a jerk but make a movie that made $1 billion, because you wouldn't be sure of that, but you'd be sure of, on a day-to-day basis, having an easier job if the people around you were like you, Well, if they're like you and you're the one that's been picking all these stinkers, then you got a room full of stinkers, but you don't have a good movie.
I actually have something very specific to say about that, Lou. As a former cast member of the Walt Disney Company, I worked with somebody who went through the process of changing themselves according to the pronouns that they were choosing, right? They, on Disney's expense, on Disney's dime, they were able to have these surgeries that they wanted, okay? And afterwards, guess where Disney moved this person to? They moved them from where they were to casting. That is a 1,000% true story.
Yeah, I believe
I'm not going to give away the person's identity because keep the person safe.
No, sure.
Please.
But it absolutely did happen.
Well, now my question would be, did they move them there to get them out of the public eye because they were causing problems?
No.
Or, what was the reason for that? Where they wound up? The company decided they had an aptitude for that.
I think that they went to the company and wanted to move because of some maybe physical concerns that actually had to do with something completely other than that.
Anyway.
And the company that said, well, after interviewing the person, they said, I think we'd be the best fit for casting. And that's where they chose to go to.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm not even that's no, like when I heard it
we can all read between those lines, right?
Okay.
We can all read between those lines.
Yeah. So it was very strange. It was as somebody working there at the time, I went and this was not very much long after they changed the Disney look standards.
Yeah,
I see.
So what I'm saying is that I think they have more check boxes. There are more check boxes now on surface level type of stuff
than a shoe store in Prague.
Yeah. rather than what you bring to the role as far as your merit is concerned.
Of course. Go ahead, Lou.
Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to stop the conversation.
You're fine. You're absolutely fine. I just wanted to make sure that everybody got their say in on the story before we move on here. Was there something you were going to say, Lou? Lou? Hello?
I'm doing
it. Okay, you're good. Okay.
Hello. Well,
make sure
I got that button. I think I do.
Jeez, you're a ghost.
Hello.
Oh, wait,
Hello.
We're all here.
Hey,
there you
who's
go.
on first?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this
you just can't get rid of a bomb.
that one's more applicable here, Lou, than you think it might be, because this next story right here, I think this is a bomb in the works, but maybe, it's too early to tell. This is a developing story, by the way, broke a couple of hours ago. We've got some interesting reporting from the various outlets on this one. So here we go. Deadline here. Star Wars trilogy deal. Lucasfilm taps Simon Kinberg to write and produce. This by Mike Fleming Jr. of Deadline. As noted before, this is a very, very interesting story right here, especially as it relates to this outlet. Lucasfilm has closed a deal with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. I heard this will comprise episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga. This is very key here, folks. That began with George Lucas's 1977 first film, which, along with Steven Spielberg's Jaws, reshaped the global blockbuster game. Insiders disputed my intel that Kinberg will continue that storyline, saying this instead will begin a new saga and sit alongside percolating Star Wars projects with James Mangold, Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, Taika Waititi, and Donald Glover. Well, I can just tell you right now, the last three of those probably not going to happen, but we'll see. As usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. He's referring to an article out of the Hollywood Reporter right here. Star Wars, Simon Kinberg to write, produce new trilogy for Lucasfilm. Kinberg would spearhead the launching of a new saga in the beloved galaxy far, far away, and will write scripts for what Lucasfilm hopes would chart a brand new path forward for the sci-fi space opera universe.
It's
Is that the Millennium Falcon going to hyperspace? I believe is what that is. But
that's a strange Falcon picture.
That's where I'm gonna want to go after seeing this movie.
Yeah, to hyperspace. Chewie, punch it. Here's the thing about this
whole Nolan need with a starship.
There we go. There we go.
Lou, you're on fire tonight.
It's so good.
A lot.
What? Here's the thing. Okay, adding on to the trilogy, I think is a massive mistake. And the Skywalker saga is done. I don't think anybody's necessarily interested in the continuation of those characters and stories. I thought also too. I think Tom mentioned this from Midnight's Edge on the Pro Show earlier. Isn't Opinionated Rey film supposed to be kind of a continuation of that? So why would there be competing stories in that space? I'm not quite sure why that would actually occur. Go ahead.
Smells like a multiverse coming at us to me.
Oh no, better yet.
Oh no, please not.
Oh no.
Actually, this might not be terrible because this is the first time in a very long time I actually want to see Rey Star Wars movies get made. Because I would just love if like they both got the go ahead to do this and they're both supposed to be a continuation off of Rise of Skywalker. So you get to see the beef going on between these two heads trying to make a Rey movie and just figure out all the drama going on behind the scenes. Like, I think that'd be hilarious.
Nolan, if there were enough people out there who agreed with you, they'd do it. Because all they know about making two movies at the same time on the same topic is you got to see both or you'll be missing part of the canon.
Hell yeah.
And therefore they would sell 2 tickets to the 12 people who cared instead of 6.
And they don't take time to really put love and affection into all the side projects either. We know how the High Republic books have been selling from all the stories we've covered on these various channels and such. I remember when I was younger, in the bridge between like the Star Wars movies, you'd have all these video games that were literally made by a whole designated Star Wars studio that literally lived and breathed this stuff. Exactly. And you know, there's a reason people still cite them. Like it would make you care about, hey, you see random vehicle B in the background, it's got a whole story behind it. And it doesn't just seem like something that's on a footnote of a Wikipedia article. It actually had a interesting story put behind it that wasn't just there to hit some check boxes or sell toys. And of course, you know, merchandise sales is important, but it was stuff people actually wanted to buy and could actually still be relevant even to the modern child that might have grown up with an iPad. It's just disappointing that they didn't put people that truly loved and adored this brand in charge because they more so wanted to change it or just kind of warp it as a driver force to gain in some other kind of role. It's disappointing.
It's crazy.
You are again. I love you, but you're making an assumption that we don't have proof of. That they didn't put what they thought were people who loved it. And they just don't know. They just haven't got a clue. I keep saying this for weeks and months here. Nobody tries to make a bad movie. Nobody goes out of their way to make a stinker. But they sure manage to make a lot of them, don't they? Why? Because they don't know any better. I always say this. If you ever have a friend tell you, I want to take you to my favorite restaurant. And they do. And it's mediocre at best, lousy at worst. They've been raving about it all the way there. and you suddenly realize they don't know any better. Their mom couldn't cook. Their grandma couldn't cook. They've never been anywhere really good. They have a palate of mediocrity. And that's just the way it is. Well, what if these people manage, because they're good at other things, like studio politics, like, I don't know, to manipulate themselves to the top? A, they're going to continue to make choices based on having no taste. And B, they're going to continue to think they're doing wonderfully because, hey, they're paying me millions of dollars to do this. I must be worth it.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's so weird with Star Wars for me personally, because it's like, I was so intensely excited in 2012 2012, I think it was, when the announcement was made that Disney bought Star Wars. Like I was over the freaking moon excited, because at that point in time they were starting to do really well with Marvel, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. And The Force Awakens started its advertising campaign. And the greatest thing they did in that advertising campaign was that scene where Han and Chewie come back to the Millennium Falcon, and he looks at Chewie and he says, Chewie, we're home. And, you know, that nostalgia is what everybody wanted. And that's not what they gave us. And then I saw The Force Awakens, and not one time were Luke, Leia, and Han on the screen together. And I went, oh my heavens, what the heck is going on? How could a company like Disney get this property and so quickly get it so wrong? I was thinking, you know, I have no interest in Star Wars whatsoever going forward. They could create anything. I'm not going to watch it unless I have to review it. But I was thinking I was having a conversation with a friend about how Rise of Skywalker ended. And I was thinking, if it would have ended this way, maybe it would have been really interesting and we all would have wondered what was going to happen next. See, it ended in a way nobody cared what happens next, right? But if it wasn't, if the movie had a different name, maybe, and then it ends with, you know, Rey shooting out the white lightsaber. The lady asks, "So what's your name?" She goes, "Rey," and she goes, "No, what's your last name?" And she went, "Palpatine." And the lightsaber changed to red. If the lightsaber changed to red and her eyes started to glow, we would all have freaked out, wondering what the heck is coming next. And then they could have had a redemption arc for her character, and it would have been really interesting for her to be the bad guy, like totally the bad guy for 2 movies and come back. I mean, I think we all would have been on the edge of our seats. What the heck is going to happen next? But the way it ended, I'm like, this is the stupidest movie ever. This is so boring.
Ron, I think it's funny you say that, because that's what I wanted them to do so bad in Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, they had all the temptation. They had that Rey illusion, evil Rey thing in the trailer, you know, and I was like, wouldn't this be so cool? I know we just had the good evil storyline with the prequels, not crazy long ago. I guess it was a while ago at that point, but I wanted to see Rey go evil, and there'd be like a dynamic to it. I wanted to see Kylo go good, and that would kind of balance things out, balance the Force, so to speak, and kind of a reverse on what happened with Darth Vader, if that makes sense. And I think,
if the Rise of Skywalker could have been, you know, Kylo Ren, who is in the Skywalker family, though he's technically a Solo, but he really is a Skywalker. He's the actual Skywalker, so that would have been interesting to see. But the problem is, none of the writing was interesting. It was, I mean, even to the point where they did that nostalgia thing of trying to bring the different voices of the past Jedi back and coach her. And I'm like, but they don't show any faces. And these are all people that can be Force ghosts. Even with CGI, you could have brought him back, even in a bad way, like they did with Flash. That was horrible, by the way. But it's just,
well, you didn't want to see Nicolas Cage Jedi fighting a spider? You didn't want to see that?
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. But no, it's just like the people in charge of this property, just they don't seem to have a clue. But like Lou said, they think they do, and they love what they're putting out. And that's not good for anybody.
This is why I want to bring this up, because I think this is super relevant to the conversation. This might actually impact your thought process on this, because Simon Kinberg was the guy who Lucasfilm consulted with in order to make Force Awakens.
Yeah,
he's done Rebels. Apparently, he did Dark Phoenix as well, which is
the second one or the X-Men 3.
No, I think it was just the Dark Phoenix picture there. His body of work is definitely questionable when it comes to his productions. I think the most notable works that he has been a part of recently is the Deadpool franchise, producer, and executive producer on Deadpool Wolverine. He definitely has an in there with Lucasfilm already. But the issue that I see coming out of Simon Kinberg is, out of all the people that you want touching the Star Wars franchise and maybe, correcting course when it comes to the ship itself, Simon Kinberg's the guy? No, I don't think so. That's just, you know, and it underscores, I think, your point, Ron, where, and Lou as well, where you have people who don't understand the fan base, who understand the fandom, don't understand what they want, where they're going. You know, for all of Kevin Feige's issues as of late, he at least understood from a fan's perspective what the fans were kind of looking for when it came to content. Now, obviously, that definitely skewed in different directions later on. But at some point, he was very in tune with that, and I think that contributed to a lot of that success, along with some other prominent people shaping that as well. Lou, go ahead.
He didn't get this gig without making a pitch first.
That's true.
So it isn't like we're going to hire him and then he'll sit down and gaze at his navel and figure out what he wants to do. So obviously, although they did that with the previous people too, he's presented something they like, that they think works, that they think they can make into a success. So,
right,
judging based on his credits with respect is beside the point. And you know, who knows? You can dream, but you don't have to celebrate. The problem with the way the media works in the media is that when somebody gets a job, they get an article or 12 about, oh, look, he got a job. It doesn't mean anything to the creativity one way or the other. But they're celebrating it like it was 4th of July because that's what press people do. So
I cannot wait for, I don't know, 6 months, year, 2 years, when we all look back at this story as another one of those Lucasfilm projects that was announced, big fanfare, big praise, all this kind of stuff, getting the media out there and running with it, and then we find out.
Well, does the fact that he was out in his garden gardening when he got the phone call telling him this mean the dirt is being moved?
The dirt is
yes, yeah.
Oh
the dirt's
God.
being moved, right? It's all gonna happen, guys. Trust us. It's all gonna happen. Yeah,
no, this is like the Young Avengers project that by the time it gets made, the word young will not be able to be used.
Exactly.
Those actors are, I mean, I don't know if Marvel realizes this, but in real life, people actually age. So when you hire a 25-year-old to play young Hawkeye, but by the time Young Avengers comes around, she's 35, pushing 40. That ain't Young Avengers anymore.
Yeah, that's just a new
slate of
the old
presidency.
That's different between age and health.
We'll have to see on this story and whether or not it's actually going to amount to anything. My guess on Lucasfilm's track record is no. But
it got us to spend 15 minutes on it.
Well, that's a fair point. That's a good
So,
point.
I'd like something to give us a ray of light, of hope. What's this off the
Ron Charmian.
I know you have to depart here. I don't want to go ahead and keep you for any longer than you allotted for yourself. So please go ahead. Where can the good people find you here on this beautiful World Wide Web?
Clearly, right. How do I point? That right there? Follow the Brownies
there, right?
Although it's going to go through some changes here in the next 6 months or so, but it's still the same right now. But yeah, we do the Daily Dish show kind of like this every morning at 9:30 a.m. leading into typically Culture Casino, but that could change because of schedules have changed. And then often like today and tomorrow, I will be live at the parks for the show. So sometimes it goes a little bit longer. Typically it's about an hour and 10 minutes, the Daily Dish.
Subscribe and hit notifications, folks.
Yeah, there you go.
When he's on, you'll know.
That's it.
I'm not signed in right now. That's the only reason why the subscribe button is not.
No, you're
right
good.
Now,
you're
but
good.
Trust me, it would be hit.
No, I'm just looking at my banner and I'm like, I totally need to change that banner and get rid of that Figment crap. That's I need a new banner up there. But yeah, that's where I am. And also, if you go to X or Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, and type in "Follow the Bradley's Fun." And Lou, did you see it? Did you see it, Lou?
Yeah.
Okay, I changed the Bradley's
you
apostrophe
yes.
for Lou.
Oh,
You decided you had garnered all of the grammar Nazis you could, and it was time to drop that for another ploy for attention.
Exactly. I appreciate you. I am always welcome to criticism. I'm like, I don't get why people don't get that, because it can only make you better. So I appreciate it all, always. So thank you. Go follow me there. And then my wife over at Virginia Bradley's Adventures and her stuff too. So
awesome stuff. Well,
thank you
Ron,
so much.
And
thank you for letting me be here tonight. I'm going to go get some water from.
I want to say something about your wonderful wife.
Please do.
There are lots of men out there who have wives who have adventures without them. There aren't many that make a website out of
it. Oh, that's great, Lou. You're the best.
Not including OnlyFans, but anyway.
Hey, Aldo. Wait. Aldo, before I leave, I got to tell Aldo Casabona something. Byron. Actually, that's my name. Ron is short for Byron. So.
There you go.
Well, in my mind, dude.
Poetic.
No, it's not Ronald. It's not Ronald. It's Byron. Thanks, guys. I will see you all real soon. Ciao.
You waited till now to tell me.
Well,
thank you.
You didn't even tell me when you're out here visiting, so you better tell me when you come for Epic, okay?
Yeah.
We'll see you later.
You'll be the first to know. We'll keep in touch.
Thanks. All right,
we'll see you, sir.
See you, man.
Thank you. Follow the Bradley's Fun is an awesome channel right there. Absolutely worth a subscribe. Definitely go over there to subscribe. Put the link in the chat right there. Make sure you go visit him and
go look at that stroll around today. Was a great one. They're all good, but just to get you started on what goes on there.
Yeah.
This morning he had a fantastic live stream.
Great stuff.
Showing you the big gingerbread house at Grand Floridian.
Ooh, I heard of that
stuff. Yeah.
Ooh. Well, I'm really glad you brought that up, because this next story, guys, you're gonna love this next story. I just love this next story. It's so great. It's fantastic. Here you go. Walt Disney World News today. Ring in 2025 with Tiana's New Year's Adventure $799 event at Walt Disney World. This by Britt Tuttle. November
what
6th.
Do you do here?
You go on a broken ride. You get wet. Then you get a dinner. We should have the clips of Red Buttons talking about didn't get a dinner. Various people. Have you seen those? No? Go look it up.
I have not, but now I'm very interested and keen to see that. This was amazing right here. A new event featuring Tiana. Yes, Tiana, folks, will allow guests to celebrate New Year's Eve in style at Walt Disney World. Before a prize, Tiana's New Year's Adventure. According to Walt Disney World Magic, the new event titled Tiana's New Year's Adventure will include character interactions, live music, fine dining at California Grill. I see. So New Orleans. And a view of New Year's Eve fireworks at the Magic Kingdom. Last year, the resort offered a similar party themed to Alice in Wonderland. I could see that, yes. The offering will take place on December 31st, 2024, from 7:30 to 12:30 a.m. So, just a scant what is that? 5 hours? Okay, I guess that's fine for $800 a person. Check-in begins at 7 p.m. The event is priced at $800 per person. Tax and
I'm
gratuity
sorry,
included.
guys. How many people here have or know children, as we have come to describe them? How many of those children eat caviar and beef tartare?
Yes,
really?
Yes.
Maybe the beef tartare when it falls on the floor when you're making hamburger and they nibble on it. Beef tartare is raw ground beef, folks, with a raw egg broken over it and capers and chilled raw bar, caviar station. This happens too much. When terms of art of a particular business linger into the common vernacular. A station is a catering head of the hotel's term. The idea that there's a caviar station, all aboard the caviar station, the train's leaving. I tell you what, I was giving some blood to the cause of science the other day, And the girl couldn't find my vein because they never came. And they called over the old nurse, the wise one who knew how to find the spot. And she was bitching about the people who had been in before me. And she says, "Oh, I hate that word." I said, "What word?" She says, "Butterfly." She says, ever since that got into the parlance for these little narrow needles, people all say, "I have to have a butterfly for my blood test." And, so anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt this. Now,
no, you're fine. You're fine.
We have for the grown-ups at the wood burning appetizer, so they don't burn their little pits. I don't think the kids get to do it. We have pizzas and donuts and drumsticks. But for the children, we have caviar and beef tartare. Those kids are, well, wait a minute. If these are the kids of the family that can pay $700, maybe they do eat caviar.
Is it the chilled appetizer station?
Never mind. I feel like Rosanna Dana now. I read it wrong. Anyway,
no, that's fine. No, look, look.
And hot seafood. Yeah, okay. Blackened redfish.
This is, folks,
from the grill.
$100 for this. Okay, so this must be the best jumbo sea scallops that you've ever had before in your life.
New Orleans inspired beignets. So they're not beignets, they're just New Orleans inspired.
That's a good point.
And by the way, chicory coffee is a New Orleans thing, but the whole idea of chicory coffee is like hamburger helper. Chicory is a filler that kind of tastes like coffee, but not very, that was used primarily during the World Wars to hide the fact that we weren't getting enough real coffee out of South America because of transportation and shortages and stuff. House-made truffles and bonbons. Ooh.
I'm looking at this and I'm just going, wow.
Well, there you go. Wait a minute. Open bar. That might make up the difference if you drink a lot.
Okay. That's
look,
a fair point.
can we get to the chase here? Look, it has long been known that one of the key vantage points to see the fireworks at the Magic Kingdom is up at California Grill. That's what they're selling for $800.
Sure, yeah. But that doesn't really say New Orleans to me. So I think the theme is a little, I don't know. It could have better reflected its setting and ambiance.
But what did you say it was last year? It was Alice?
Alice in Wonderland.
So does that say?
Well, look, I'll say this about Alice in Wonderland here. You could do quite a bit of things in that regard in order to make it fit here. It'd be a stretch, but I can see you can do it. And also, too, it's a character that's endured for decades at this point.
Yeah, but it's not the one they're promoting right now. So this is the same dinner, I guarantee you, pretty much same as last year, the year before. Same. I mean, the price goes up, but the dance stays the same. They just change the characters every year to whoever they're trying to promote. That's all. I don't blame.
I suppose so, but I guess my issue with it is look, Tiana, her movie came out 15 years ago, okay? I think it was like 2 years after that movie came out, I never heard much about Tiana, almost ever. I mean, she just wasn't as relevant as maybe some of the other princesses that were coming out, especially when you consider Frozen and everybody else. And to push her in this way, where she completely dominates New Orleans Square at Disneyland, for example, and she's being pushed to this level and to this degree, I don't know. Like you said, Lou,
she must be so popular.
Yeah, she must be.
Well, see, when they started talking about the new ride, people were saying that she was one of the most popular princesses ever, and I never realized that. So,
but she's not, though. There's no data to back that
up.
That's
what I'm saying. So,
her merchandise does not move to the degree that you would think it would. For pushing this character to the degree that they are right now.
But again, this is a virtue signaling company. This is a company to see we have one. Honest, we did.
It's honestly to me disgusting how they've treated Tiana the past 5 or so, maybe even going farther out years. You know,
Yes.
she's a relevant princess. You know, she put up a solid movie out there, and she's earned a spot as a Disney princess. But they've basically just turned her into nothing but her visual aesthetics, as opposed to who she was.
The word you're looking for.
Yes, because
who she was, the character.
I do think the lessons and themes within what is it, Princess and the Frog, were actually very, very good, and Tiana was definitely a reflection of that, the embodiment of that. But the way, she has been taken and
can I
twisted as a
confess
character.
something I've been loath to confess these past few weeks?
Please.
Sure.
I've never seen it. And it wasn't because of who she was. It was just because I wasn't watching those anymore back then.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's true.
If it makes you feel any better, my first time, I haven't gotten to the entirety of it yet, so my apologies. If I'm a fraud, you can call me out now. But the first time I ever saw any of Princess and the Frog was just a few months ago when we were on the buses at Disney World, and they were playing the old Disney DVD menus and stuff like that on the buses. Because I believe, Vash, you'd know this. What's the name of the bus company Disney's been hiring now as like a third party to...
Mears.
Well, they were with Mears for a long time right there, but I think they still have some affiliation with them. But go ahead.
Yeah,
they were having them as like help with the bus routes, and they had like they put the old Disney DVD movies on there. And as we're on the bus, like we finally get to watch some of Tiana's movie, and I'm like, wow, this is actually pretty good. It's pretty cute and stuff like that. And there were trailers that were on before the movie started, and I'm watching it, and I'm like. There was advertisements for like Tangled and the Tinkerbell DVD movies at the time. And I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, how much of this is just so problematic now? Like, I can't even have Tinkerbell in the parks. And here I am watching, when I was younger, Tinkerbell movie. Like, what the heck?
Well,
I was younger, so much younger than today. I never needed any Tinkerbells in my way. Those days are gone. I'm not so self-assured. And now I find Tiana's mind is blowing up the herd.
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, that's pretty decent on the fly.
It wasn't great. It was spontaneous, however. So,
pretty good.
But anyway, this is a fireworks dinner party on a night.
It is.
And by the way, didn't we hear that they were cutting back on the duration of the fireworks?
Apparently
From what it had been in the past.
Was what we heard for the July 4th celebration. We'll have to see about New Year's Eve. I think New Year's Eve is maybe a different story, especially with the amount of alcohol that they might.
But to my mind, if you had the money and you wanted to do this anyway,
sure.
The only thing that would motivate me to do it is if I'm actually staying at the Contemporary, because
That's
unlike most New Year's Eve, the party's over, it's time to go home commuting. You can do it by elevator.
Yes. When it comes to the Prince and the Frog film, I will say it starts out pretty good. Actually, it's a really strong picture. In the middle, it kind of gets a little bit belabored, and then they really rush at the end. I thought that a little bit more balance on that regard would have been played out quite nicely. But it was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker.
Oh, wow.
Executive produced by John Lasseter, who had a real impact on the film itself. Like, it's not a bad picture. It just wasn't the strongest, and not enough at all to save 2D animation, which was its intended purpose. So 15 years later, to push it to this degree, I think is an odd move. Guests will step into the whimsical world of New Orleans with appearances by Princess Tiana, Prince Naveen, and a cast of beloved characters. While Tiana and Naveen are there to greet guests and sample cuisine, they're unaware that a few friends from the bayou, thanks to Mama Odie's magic, are crashing the party. Mama Odie's
Are they there to give me the
Wait,
refund?
you mean something goes wrong? Adventure? You mean it's
apparently
a great thing in
yes.
the theme park? Something goes wrong?
Something maybe goes wrong. Not with Facilier, though. That's the key thing here. Yeah, Mama Odie's playful spell keeps Tiana's friends Louis and other critters out of sight, but as the night progresses, Tiana may start to suspect something and enlist guests' help to solve the mystery. $800 for this per person.
The great mystery of who stole Splash Mountain.
Perfect, Nolan. I love that. That is so apt and so descriptive. It is tragic. But let's go ahead and move on to our next story. I think, let's see here. Which one do I want to highlight? I think it's going to be this next one here. Give me just a second, guys, to pull this up, because I have some references here. Let's see. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. This one is pretty cool. Because, hey, guess what? I just visited this park, and so I can actually speak to some degree of experience when it comes to the story right here. Out of KTLA, Tennessee theme park beats out Disneyland for favorite theme park, best customer service titles. This is by Imam Palm here at KTLA, which is, an outlet out of Southern California. Dollywood, the theme park part owned by country superstar Dolly Parton in Tennessee, has beat out Disney and Universal theme parks for another award. Newsweek and research firm Statista named Dollywood Parks and Resorts, quote, the best theme park in the United States for customer service. By the way, the quotes around best shouldn't be there. No, I'm joking. Disney Parks and Resorts came in second, while Universal Parks and Resorts came in fifth. The evaluation focused on 5 key components: quality of communication, professional competence, range of services, customer focus, and accessibility. The research is based on an independent survey of over 28,000, huge sample size right there, U.S. customers. Newsweek global editor-in-chief Nancy Cooper wrote, earlier this year, Dollywood won the, quote, favorite theme park and, quote, best new attraction categories in the National Amusement Historical Association's annual members survey. Guys, this is some huge news right here. Talks about the favorite theme park category. Disneyland and Disney World ranked second in those, and Universal didn't even chart in that one. What do you think about this? Has Dollywood arrived? Is it on the upswing? Will it dethrone Disney?
Well, what's interesting about this are the categories they judged, because none of them had to do with theming or content of the rides per se. They're all about operations in one way or another, and about how good they are at serving a customer, whether they're interested in Tennessee Mountains or Star Wars. And that's a good way to judge these. I'm particularly positive about this competition, such as it is, because you may not be into this. If you're not going to run to it the way you are to Star Wars or whatever. But the issue is not that. The issue is once you get there, do they get you in? Do they get you out? Do they service your needs as a tourist well for the money? And this place always does. By the way, did you see there's been a story, I think it was just today, Dolly has invited the nice young part of the British royal family to come visit. And they're coming.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not see that story.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. I mean, when Dolly purchased the park, or at least a large portion of it in 1986, renamed it Dollywood from the Rebel Railroad as it opened in 1961. It was interesting because she kind of had this idea of like being the Walt of the South, which was a pretty cool quote from her. And so, yeah, I think she really does see this as almost like an international destination resort complex. So it doesn't surprise me at all that she would want maybe heads of state to visit her park. Not too dissimilarly how heads of state visited Disneyland back in 55 when it opened.
Yeah.
Today it has a water park, 2 resort hotels, live entertainment, and dozens of rides and attractions. And I will say, that cinnamon bread right there.
Ooh, look at that sexy beast right there.
Boy. Oh, you're too kind, Nolan. You're too kind. But not as maybe beast-like as the cinnamon bread. So good. Absolutely incredible. Unbelievable. I think somebody commented earlier that you should go for the cinnamon bread alone. And I do think that's quite right. And Jim T, good old regional hospitality. I do think that's a big part and component of what may maybe be impacting this the survey right here, because I will say when you go to Disneyland, for example, right, you have the let's say the LA crowd that helps you out with with customer service issues there, and maybe they're not quite as hospitable as maybe that old Southern hospitality that you might find in the Tennessee area, around Knoxville and so forth, and around Dollywood specifically. It's just a different attitude, a different mentality, and a different approach to customer service as a whole. And I think it really does come out. This park is just oozing with charm. It really is on the upswing in terms of annual attendance, and they are expanding thusly. Oh, go ahead, Lou.
They're building another 500-room hotel.
Yes.
So,
yep. I mean, they are in the process of rapid expansion.
Good word of mouth goes such a long way. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything bad about Dollywood, and if they did, they probably.
Oh God, that looks good.
Yeah, really good.
Although I don't know why the barbecue sauce has kind of a peanut butter aspect in that picture, but anyway.
That's pumpkin.
Ooh.
Oh.
Does it slap?
I take it back. I don't want pumpkin ribs.
No, it's better than you would think, Lou.
No, it isn't. I don't like pumpkin at all.
Oh, no.
But anyway. But that.
Okay, is the lake that giant, or is it just how that picture was taken? Because that thing looks huge.
That's a turkey lake.
It was a huge turkey lake, yeah.
Well, Disneyland used to have those.
They did.
And then.
They did.
And I predicted from the first day I heard about that, they'll call it a bento leg or something, and they'll have it on the menu. But no, not anywhere. At Galaxy's Edge. Now, are those fries or are those apples in the background?
No, those are fries. Yeah, they're kind of cut in the form of wedges right there.
Fries.
Actually, very good as well. I was unbelievably pleased with the food offerings there, but moreover, it's what I would say is kind of a combination of like Ghost Town meets Frontierland. It's like in the best way possible. It's so very, very cool. Entertainment around every nook and cranny.
That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely.
And what was the first thing when Disney started economizing? They started getting rid of the streetosphere at Hollywood Studios, the shows, and it's like.
Well, yeah, there's this story actually. Let me look it up real fast. Scott Gustin had the story that they just that Disney just put out today. They're taking the Fantasyland Theater, and you know how large that Fantasyland Theater is, Lou. Yeah. I mean, it is one of the biggest venues on Disneyland Resort property, definitely the biggest in Disneyland proper. And are they putting a show back in for the holidays? No, they're not going to go ahead and do that. What are they doing? They're putting in a basically glorified meet and greet where you can meet Santa Claus. And it's like
the same thing you can do at the dead malls.
Yes.
Yeah.
This huge venue. You can see the seats there.
Yeah.
in this photo.
I was going to say a long walk up and down to meet Santa too, for all those people who are grandparents who take their kids to the park.
Yes. This venue was never built to do something like this. It was built for shows. It was built for entertainment.
And there's a dance place, Videopolis.
Yeah, and Videopolis, that's correct. And the fact that they don't have any of that here is unbelievably bizarre, especially for when you examine the history, the rich entertainment history of Disneyland. But that entertainment-focused idea lives on at Dollywood, I'll say. They give you a brochure. It's not even like a Times guide like you would have in the old days at Disneyland. It's like a brochure of all the entertainment, and it's just packed full of entertainment in every single venue that they have here. And there's like dozens of venues dotted all around the park to give you that kind of that feeling of almost like a festival. And it's absolutely amazing.
That's their answer to the how do we make this a multi-day experience?
Yes.
And by the way, it's so cheap, it's scary as far as if you buy a 2-day pass or a 3-day pass, like one adds $10 and one adds $20 to the price of your ticket.
Correct.
It's
I would say too that park is definitely geared towards the annual pass holder visitation there. If you're going one day, it is a little bit, but if you go multiple days or if you get an annual pass, you're really getting a lot of value here. That is absolutely for sure. Definitely visit Dollywood if you're in the Tennessee area because it is I would say the embodiment of that kind of old school approach to theme parks where entertainment first, customer oriented first, great rides, great attractions, great theming, and a lot of heart and a lot of charm that you don't typically see. Usually you see these amusement proprietors who go in one direction or the other, whether it be like just strictly family or strictly thrill. This is kind of the combination of both in the best way possible. Nolan?
Also, the decor, in many cases, it's just there because it's pretty. I mean, that street with the upside down umbrellas. What's that got to do with the Smoky Mountains? Nothing. But it's gorgeous, so they did it.
It's unique.
Have you got
unique.
a picture of that someplace, Vash? You know the one I mean, with the umbrellas upside down hanging from above?
Oh, maybe I can find that. Go ahead, Noel.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was about to ask, as someone who hasn't been to Dollywood yet, unfortunately, but has definitely been sold on a ticket after tonight, because, like I said, word of mouth goes a long way. And I was about to ask, what the heck is that eagle thing behind you in the picture you're doing? Like, it looks like it's about to claw your eyes out. Like, what is that?
I think it's a symbol for one of the coasters.
I think that is the mascot for the Eagle attraction that is there. One of the big coasters. I believe it's a B&M wing coaster, if I'm not mistaken.
Ooh,
and
right,
that's kind
right.
of the. I like every single coaster
with claws about to grab you. Yes.
Right.
Tell me more with a sparkle in my eyes.
They have great coasters. They have some great. That inside one with the village on fire. Yeah, but look at this. Tell me if that's got anything at all to do. You just turn a corner and there it is.
Yeah.
And it's not like, Disney, where it's so hard in our culture, to where literally there's episodes of TV shows where people go to Disney and it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to see a castle, you're going to see Mickey. Dollywood isn't as relevant in the zeitgeist. And that's kind of a cool thing, because you'll go there and you'll be much more surprised. Like this. I did not know when I woke up out of bed today, I was going to see all these umbrellas in front of me, but I'm happy for it. I say more power to you, Dolly. Like, I think the story behind it is absolutely incredible, that she got so much to her name and able to do a park like this. Like, I'd love to see more things like this. This is incredible.
I love it. And by the way, yes, Nita, you are exactly right. They have a bald eagle exhibit right there, where they have a habitat of just bald eagles. How Americana is that? Come on. I love that. That was great. If you're watching this on the replay right now, I will insert as many clips as I possibly can from the B-roll that we actually got on Dollywood, so that you get a really great idea of just the beauty of this park. There's the sheer ambience of it. Very, very cool. And all the praise in the world to get that award there and snatch it out of the claws of Disney.
No, they got the claws. They got the claws.
They do have the claws, yes.
They got the claws. Disney has Santa Claus at the bottom of a theater.
I don't know how you do that, Lou. You do it every time.
So lame.
Because of their claws? No,
fast.
because they're macaws.
Yes, because they're macaws. Oh, with the Tiki Room reference.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
So good.
Right.
Well, speaking of interesting things that don't belong in the... I don't know how to transition to this, because this is a pretty big departure right here. Robert Zemeckis is currently on tour right now promoting his new film. To be honest, guys, I can't remember what it was called. It's the one where it's kind of... the camera is basically mounted in a certain position for like thousands of years. It's literally kind of the premise of that story.
Okay.
We'll have to see how that actually goes. But during the press tour for that film, he was asked about a number of things, obviously from his career in Hollywood, and a couple of things that he was asked were some of the films that he did in the late 80s there. Hollywood Reporter Robert Zemeckis says there's a good Roger Rabbit 2 script that will never get made because of Jessica Rabbit. They can't make a movie with Jessica in it. The Who Framed Roger Rabbit director said, "This
would make too much money."
Yes, it would, wouldn't it? I thought this was a very interesting story here, because what did we cover on that Park Place podcast, or that Pod Place, just a couple of weeks ago? The fact that Disney transformed Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin at Disneyland in order to put Jessica Rabbit in different attire and actually position her in different ways than maybe she was back when the attraction opened in 1993, 1994 over there in Toontown. Well, this absolutely makes sense with everything that I've seen. They would never, ever do a film with Jessica Rabbit featured in it. And a lot of the jokes, Nolan, have you gone back and seen Roger Rabbit?
That's one of the higher ones on the movies I need to see. I've actually seen more about the development of this movie than I have the actual movie. I've seen a lot about the making of it, but it's one I've been meaning to. I mean, movie night at Vash's place, maybe we need to see Roger Rabbit. I'd be down, but it's eluded me a bit, and it's kind of stupid how many movies I've actually missed out on, and I need to get off my booty and go see already. But I will say the film is an incredible achievement of both effects and writing. It's appealed to so many. The film earned the criteria of being the first time Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse same time, correct? The piano scene.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and the piano scene was of Daffy and Donald. When they fell out the window, or
okay, that was the scene.
That's
Sorry,
when you
mixing
see
up.
both of them. Yeah.
Trying my best as someone who hasn't seen it. So I'm the official authority here on not knowing what the heck I'm talking about right now. But but no, it's literally earned a lot of respect and a lot of praise. And I've just been disgusted as routinely as I am of how Disney has handled this brand over the past 20 years. Like, it clearly showed there was a market for it. And all of a sudden something is problematic just because it has something that might be seen as attractive to certain kinds of people. And I feel like as inclusive as this company likes to act, it also neglects those out there who sway to both ways. There are women out there that like Jessica Rabbit, and they just get the shaft as well. And all the fans.
Would you care to rephrase that? Get the shaft as well.
No. I was just gonna move right along.
Okay.
YouTube censors. You didn't hear that. But it's disappointing because this brand had a lot of opportunities, and there really should have been a sequel a very long time ago. And it just comes down to a bunch of people in suits just think one of these characters is a problem. They treat it like it's Song of the South because that's a problem in their eyes. And bye-bye, Roger.
There is a great sequel out there, actually, for Roger Rabbit. The script that I heard, and it was so good. This was so awesome. So remember, the original Roger Rabbit comes out in 1988, if I'm not mistaken. And so the Disneyland Paris project, or the Euro Disneyland, was going to be opening in 1982. That's important for the story because apparently the script for Roger Rabbit 2 was to be about the fact that Toontown was going to be getting rid of. Like they were, I guess the idea was that that the Toons now having Toontown be discovered in this brand new light, following the events of the original Roger Rabbit. Well, now that changes some things, and so the Toons will inevitably be displaced. And so the idea was, okay, well, where would they actually go to? Well, apparently Walt Disney himself would carve out a spot at the back of his new park coming into the Los Angeles, Anaheim area, and that's where the Toons would actually reside. The way they were going to shoot this was really cool because they were going to shoot it at Disneyland Paris during the construction of that park in order to provide that backdrop of Walt Disney building Disneyland back in 1955. Super cool idea.
That is, because modern filmmakers wouldn't even try this. Aside of, I shouldn't say everybody, but it's just CGI. Like, take Christopher Nolan. The dude literally built a town for Oppenheimer. They would go the extra mile, and the fact that they make something look authentic, it lasts the test of time. Who goes back and looks at, say, we were just memeing on the awful CGI in The Flash earlier in the show, and like, people aren't going to remember like most of the scenes in The Flash 20 years from now because it's not that memorable. Whereas, like, you take like Roger Rabbit, as we're talking here, the effort that they put into these sets and the props to have that old school look, it's going to last its test of time. And even if the script was lackluster, everybody would have remembered that scene. So, sorry, I had a rant about modern Hollywood again.
No, it was an awesome idea to put it, with this park that was very much under construction at that time. And here's the greatest part. The greatest synergy exercise ever. The idea was, okay, they establish a new Toontown behind Walt's Park in Disneyland in 55, and supposedly it's always been there. And now, in the summer of 1992, 1993, when Toontown, the land, actually opens at Disneyland, it's the Toons basically unveiling, hey, we've been behind the park this whole time. We finally want you humans to visit the Toon World. Literally would have been a synergistic exercise on multiple fronts, utilizing all of the resources that the Walt Disney Company had to offer at that point. Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the original, was a huge monster hit for the company. It was a very expensive exercise, but one that paid off in spades. They were looking to really do a bunch in terms of that franchise. Unfortunately, though, they shared the rights with Steven Spielberg, as he was the one to get Warner Brothers and their cast of Looney Tune characters on board for the original Roger Rabbit, and as a result, they had to share the rights for the character with him. And apparently, he was the one that kind of ultimately put the kibosh on going forward with a lot of Roger Rabbit projects that the company was very excited about. And it's so tragic because to do a Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 or a prequel idea, as I've heard theorized before in the past, these would only really emanate from a Walt Disney Company of the era. Past, I would say, Frank Wells, I don't think there's really any way that they would do something like this ever, and especially now. I mean, if you're modifying what is a great attraction in the form of Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin to the degree that they are, I think Robert Zemeckis is completely spot on here. They're not going to touch this franchise with a 10-foot pole, and that's a real shame.
Then write a new one.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Rabbit
what
reboot?
A concept! Not keep recycling the old franchises and actually come up with something new again.
I see.
I see. How do you do that? I thought we're about ready to go ahead and make Casablanca 2. Tell me more about this, Lou.
The Wrath of Rick?
Yes.
Yeah, Casablanca 2. Yeah, the search for Casablanca 1. I don't know. Tom's better at that than I am. It's just it's tough. It's tough to see the company cower away from ideas that I think that are good. If you were going to expand any franchise, I think this is definitely one that's befitting of it. And and Lou, to your point of them establishing new franchises, we'll see how far they get. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't normally happen. So that's
I saw a little snippet of an interview with Daniel Craig where they asked him, "Who do you think should be the next James Bond?" He said, "I don't care." End of story. Good for him.
That's a Daniel Craig answer right there.
Sounds like a Harrison Ford answer. Dang.
He cares.
Yeah.
New Red Hulk. God. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm a little cynical at this whole subject, but I just... in the background, my wife just said, "A little."
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Robert Zemeckis continued his tour and was asked a series of questions, like I said, about other things in his career. It's interesting, every once in a while this keeps popping up. We're not going to spend too long on this part of this because there's a kind of a part 2 to this subject, which is very interesting. Robert Zemeckis says studio keeps asking for Back to the Future 4, but he'd rather direct the musical adaptation. I've floated that idea to Universal. They don't get it. This by Zach Sharf of Variety. Robert Zemeckis
Has anybody noticed that every time they write this article about him, whether it's about this or about what we just talked about, the movie he is ostensibly out there touring to promote gets given a one-line, an interview on, isn't he promoting something they want to sell now? No, I mean, seriously, why do the publicist for his current movie let them all get away with it. That's a fair point. Their job should be, yeah, but ask him about this one. Yeah, but I mean, make yourself obnoxious, but do that because that's who's paying the bills.
Does that kind of speak to maybe the quality of his films lately?
Well, that could be said about a lot of directors, unfortunately.
That's a fair point.
But I gotta say, I am surprised you brought this up because I was literally this close to making a comment about like, yeah, could you imagine a Back to the Future 4, how bad it would be? And then you bring this up, and it's like, this is one of the only franchises out there that hasn't been tarnished or even if done well, dug up from the grave. Because I think it has to do, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but he retains the rights to them so he can keep them from making crappy reboots and stuff, right?
I have heard that Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the writer, have been very adamant to Universal. You never touch this franchise. Like, it's one of those things where they kind of have to sign off on it. I believe that might have been a deal that they may have done with the help of Steven Spielberg in order to get a deal like that done. But it is one of these things where the reason why you don't see this franchise outside of maybe re-releases that are pretty frequent here is because Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis have really been adamant, you never touch this thing. and honestly, I agree with them.
I'm happy to see it. I mean, it's a product. I personally think the Back to the Future movies are a great product of their time because even if you didn't grow up in that era, you learn about so many different kind of spots of history, and including the 80s, what the movies were like back then. And I feel like if the studios had gotten their hands on it, we'd already be talking about part 5, part 6, reboot 2, Strong Independent Marty. Like, I think it's
Strong Independent Marty. Oh,
yes.
No.
No, they take the DeLorean and they modernize it as an electric car.
Yes. Well, I mean, I guess technically wasn't it electric there with the Mr. Fusion, but they would totally butcher this franchise. I mean, they would. The original is one of the best films ever made. That's just kind of how I feel.
It's not that good. It's good.
Oh, Lou.
Come on, when you're talking best films ever made, you're talking Citizen Kane and Casablanca, and I mean, Lawrence of Arabia. It's good. It's great entertainment. It's a good story. It's a good movie. Well performed.
Take your genre, guys, and just get make like a tree and get out of here. All right, no.
Okay, I will. Good night, everybody.
No, Lou.
No.
That was a joke. That was referencing the film. No, you're okay. So perhaps maybe it doesn't stand up to some of the amazing grades.
Vash, we got to run because your children 15 years from now are wreaking havoc.
Yes. We had to go save them from a horrible existence. Oh, it's so funny. Well, okay, before I let you off the hook there, Lou, the thing I want to talk about with this story was the fact that Universal Fan Fest Nights actually confirmed something. We have been waiting for more details on what they were going to actually do for Back to the Future itself, because Fan Fest Nights will feature a plethora of franchises, as I just scrolled through right there. Talking about like Star Trek and Harry Potter and Dungeons and Dragons and anime and all kinds of stuff, but we never really figured out what, or at least they hadn't released what they were actually going to do for Back to the Future itself. And so when we actually scroll down, way down here, we get what they're going to do. The town square scenes from Back to the Future were famously filmed on the Universal backlot. That's at Universal Studios Hollywood. Their sets still stand today and visible to guests on the studio tour. As part of Universal Fan Fest Nights, attendees will actually get to roam the set themselves. You're going to roam Hill Valley in 1955 in Courthouse Square in the backlot of Universal Studios Hollywood. This is super exciting for fans of the franchise. I understand.
I'll tell you who it's really exciting for.
Huh?
Their liability insurance cover.
Oh, you think so?
False fronts are not safe to wander around unless you know what you're doing, especially at night. I guarantee you all those doors will be locked and you can walk up and look at them. But inside, no.
No. And these false fronts are what Lou's talking about right here. You can see that yes, they are just fronts. They are part of structures that can be easily rethemed. And yeah, they're probably not the safest, but I'm sure there will be, safeguards in place in order to not only recreate Hill Valley from 1955, which is a cool time period, but also allow people to explore at least a little bit here. This is kind of a dream come true for me. I've always wanted to see.
Vash.
Please.
Go back out of that. Do you see the list of movies it's been used for?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And Robin. The greatest movie ever made.
Oh, no. Don't say that.
That's reason enough alone to go.
You put that back in right now. You just, that's terrible.
All right, I'll put it right back into the cooler. I'll put it right back in there.
you take that back. So I have also heard that the clock tower facade will be restored for this as well. It hasn't been the clock tower for a while. Well, so that would be
it's in a warehouse somewhere. They didn't destroy it.
No,
they just took it off. And, probably because whatever movie was shooting and didn't want to be taking people out of their experience by reminding them.
Right.
They didn't want a whole audience full of people to say, "Wait a minute, isn't that the clock from?" And meanwhile, their story goes on, and people have to come back lost. So, what if they put back in the diner though on this corner where they're standing now?
Ooh,
this is so incredible though, because usually when you see it's either a recreation, B you'll see you're kind of stumbling. If you're just casually there, you're walking around. Oh, hey, there's the DeLorean randomly at Universal, or oh, here's a little small section supposed to look like the movie. Literally a whole block here. This is huge. This is one of the most incredible. This is what people wanted out of Galaxy's Edge, not to the extent, obviously. But I feel if you're a hardcore Back to the Future guy, you should be on cloud 9 right now because you don't usually see movie things like this to the scale when you're in person, unless you were there, as a part of the film production. At that point, it's more about the movie getting made.
And I would. Look, if I was Universal right now, I'd be like, hey, look, we got Courthouse Square, we've got Hill Valley, we're doing all this kind of stuff. We do have DeLoreans that we could use for the purposes of special effects. Could we do something where we have Marty go back in time via a lightning strike every 30 minutes or so while people are back there? Ooh. That would be awesome. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm just saying that would be cool. There's a ton of stuff that you could do with this. I think this is super awesome. I've been waiting for something like this from Universal for so long. I think this is super cool. Thank you so much, Lou, for joining us here on That Pod Place or T3PO Live. Lou, what do you got coming up?
Well, I have a date with you every Sunday. Yeah. And it's special and meaningful. Oh. And, we share a soda and talk about our lives together in the future. And no, we don't, folks. We talk about old Hollywood or something else. We never know. It is the most wide-ranging cornucopia of crapola in the history of podcasts. Hey, that's what we can call it. But we didn't. We called it the backlot, the Hollywood backlot with Lou and you, because we answer your questions live at 2 p.m. every Sunday. There it is.
And I think it's a great cornucopia of different items and different.
Okay, well, you guys are just making me sound like your show is Fruit of the Loom. I know it's more than that.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me find. Well, I've got to be able to find it. Go ahead. Talk among yourselves.
This show is amazing. I'll tell you what, as someone who's not a part of this show, as someone who is a routine viewer, though, I'll say this is definitely worth your time. I was listening a bit here recently, and it was the episode where Marvin was filling in, and you guys were talking about some of the greatest movie monsters, and I thought that was extremely fascinating. How much, especially a lot of people in the audience, know a lot about these historic characters of our pop culture, and I know routinely I've seen you and Vash do a lot of really good deep dives into Hollywood, and if you like Hollywood trivia, this is the show to watch, guys. And it's fun. So I can't praise it enough.
Wow.
Well, last time we covered the history of the Grammys. We took a story that Disney was notable for. We expanded out and walked through not just Grammys, but also too the Hollywood Walk of Fame, literally. So kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, and then if you like more recent movies, but still deep dives, I've got the Genre Guys, and that's fun. Let's see.
Absolutely,
there it
Genre
is.
Guys is fantastic.
And you explain that whole process because I get lost.
Oh, no problem. So, the Genre Guys is a meetup of Hangry Table, Lauren Connor, and Lou Wasserman's Ghost, and they review a movie there. They try not to make it super notable because obviously, what more can be said about some incredible films of the past, but just kind of, maybe lesser known gems that really reflect a time, a place and time and a period and so forth. Better movies than maybe you can experience today, and really kind of present those in a way that obviously maybe might have been missed from theatergoers at the time, or maybe young people now, and does it in a certain way that is unbelievably interesting, fascinating, intriguing. This show is beloved by fans, and after 90 days of them being originally released on the WW Pro channel, exclusive to members, they come here completely free with ads via that pod place. And so the recent episodes we have are Bridge of Spies, as you can see right here, episode 27. Episode 28 was actually released yesterday and covers Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. That's a great movie, folks. That is awesome. It's fantastic. And their approach to it, Genre Guys, that is one that should not be missed. I mean, it's a fantastic show. So definitely check out the Genre Guys, whether it be on that pod place or, hey, become a member on the Pros channel so that you can actually see these when they're released. It's a whole lot of fun.
And we're about to do, we just did Sleepy Hollow for Halloween, and we're about to do in memoriam of the election, the movie Election with Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick. And then what did we just do? Oh, next after that is going to be Get Shorty. So that gives you a sense of the range. And back to the Fruit of the Loom. I've been recently finding that there's ways we can make music on here without getting dinged by the powers that be. If you look over there on the side, you will see a link to one of the neatest songs ever made for a commercial for Fruit of the Loom. And so if you put that in the chat, people can play it for themselves. And this week from Lou's Hit Parade Jukebox of Joy. But it's such a classic. It's so good. It's too good to advertise underwear with. That's all.
You want to know how good it is? My face this past minute while you guys were talking was me watching that ad, and sweet mother of God, that ad.
It's a great song, isn't it? I mean, just as a song. If it was on the Hit Parade, it would. Oh God! It's called Comfortably, and it's about having your underwear be comfortable. Something I know we all, especially when you get to my age, care much about. So. Try that out.
Shout out there for everybody who wears underwear and wants to feel comfortable.
Right there. It's in the chat right there. You can follow the link and discover the comfort for yourself. Lou, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
And Lou, you make us feel comfortable.
Oh, well, are you boxers? Are you briefs? Anyway, I'll be brief and say, thank you guys, both of you. And I'll see you on Sunday, Vash.
You got it. See you Sunday, Lou. Thank you so much. Lucky there. Bye.
Always an honor.
Absolutely. Always an honor with the good old LW Ghost right there. Thank you so much for everything you do for this channel, Lou. Very much appreciated. Let's see here. We got a super chat right now. We're going to hit right before our next story right here. The mom for the 199. Thank you so much for that. Have you seen the new DeLorean car? I have. Yes. So I don't know if you know this story, Nolan, but there was a documentary actually produced on this whole thing. Out of Time. I definitely recommend actually getting it, by the way. Very, very good. But You can actually see on the right of your screen right there, that was the dilapidated state that the original A car for the Back to the Future film from the original that was released in 1985. That was the state of it because they had left it outside. And, well, things in the outdoor elements, they don't often have maybe the best fates possible, especially for a car that was, never really designed to be left outdoors all the time, rain, all of that. But it had suffered from a couple of things. One being it had been infested with all kinds of different critters and so forth. I guess in one compartment there was a bunch of acorns that a squirrel or a raccoon had brought in at one point. A lot of the parts were actually stolen off of it over the years from certain unfavorable characters that may have made their way onto the back lot at some point. So it was in a dilapidated state. Again, this is the A car, the lead car that was part of the Back to the Future film. There were multiple produced, and the out of time actually goes into that quite extensively. But the A car, the lead car, was the one that suffered the most damage, unfortunately, from Universal's care of it. They, at considerable expense, went back and lovingly restored the original A car as close to film accurate as possible, with a plethora of different DeLorean builders and so forth, people who really know how to actually do this properly. They were actually able to source back a number of parts that had been stolen and so forth, source new ones from old stock that the original filmmakers actually used when composing the car. Originally, it's a great documentary. I recommend anybody see it because it's a fascinating story. They have had it on display at various points at Universal Studios Hollywood itself. I believe the old Lucy exhibit that used to be on the lower lot, that was transformed in later years to more of a generic film historical walkthrough exhibit there. It's no longer there now, but at one point the car was actually there. They have moved it, I think, to the Automotive Society or a museum in LA in order to preserve it there. It's moved its way around in various places, is what I'm saying. But I have had the chance to actually look at it. It is awesome. It is so cool. Wow. It's fantastic. And I can tell you right now, Universal keeps very good care of it nowadays.
I like seeing a prop like this getting a story with a happy ending. I have one of those, like, Lou Wasserman's Ghost type stories in regards to props like this. If any of you care to hear it, I could share it with our beautiful audience if you'd like.
Please.
So years ago, there was a film prop from the 2000 film Thomas and the Magic Railroad. It had Alec Baldwin in it. Had what's her name? The girl from the Miracle on 34th Street remake. What's her name? I cannot think of her name right now to save my life, but she's cool. Mara Wilson. It had had a lot of actors in it. It was based off the British television series. So, and it's actually a fantastic movie. It feels like you're on a trip watching it. So there was a prop that was used for a lot of Peter Fonda's scene, very famous actor there. And there was this whole backstory about how he had this steam engine. The engine's name was Lady. And there was a big prop made for the movie that was like steam engine size. It was made out of like wood and stuff like that. The actors would actually get inside the cab. That prop had been like neglected for so long. It eventually got turned into a Christmas attraction as like one of those Christmas trains you see at things. It was like painted up. And the thing is a freaking massive thing. Like you literally have to get this thing on like a truck flatbed with like a moving company or like for an oversized load because of how big it is. That one, the second one right there, with the funky colors. That one was, right. So it clearly deteriorated a lot over time. And what happened was there was a huge, like when they found out about it from like a Craigslist or like a Facebook Marketplace listing, a huge effort was put in by a lot of the fans to try to buy up the prop and restore it to its former glory. There were a ton of people who donated to it. I was one of them, and got in to try to get it fixed up. So it was purchased, gone in, And then they partnered with a dude to try to get it restored. And then it didn't get restored. There was a lot of issues with money, and it eventually resulted in courtroom drama. So it was just a mess. I don't think I can honestly not even remember if I ever got my money back from that or not. And figuratively, I really don't care. I don't care to slander anybody, but it's just like, there's a lot of things that go into play in a lot of crazy stories when it comes down to prop preservation. There's a lot of good. There's like missteps on things. So Vash, with your story about the DeLorean, I cannot stress enough how much it makes me happy to see like something outcome, because there's so many hurdles, that have to be gone. Like, who owns what? What is the prop worth saving? Is like the size of it. What's it going to cost to bring it to light? And the fact that so many people were that passionate about Back to the Future, I think that is incredible and is an achievement when it comes to film preservation and being able to share that magic with younger generations, because we know Back to the Future isn't getting a new entry anytime soon, and hopefully it can bring a lot of attention for those new audiences who want to take the DeLorean for a spin.
I know, and I think film preservation, it's interesting. A lot of studios didn't really put much stock into that, because it's like, well, once these props are actually used, how much value do they really have, especially with productions that might not be necessarily profitable, that even less so, right? I mean, You've heard about the original Death Star, right? That apparently was sitting on somebody's lawn or something like that, which was crazy. Yeah. Look the story up. The original Death Star was found.
Honey, let's go out to our lawn to take a look at the moon. Gets the telescope and you just start looking around. You actually hit the Death Star. That's no moon.
No, it was literally like some lawn ornament or something. The original.
Was it
DeLorean,
also painted in Christmas gear like the train was?
It may have been at one point, but somebody found it. Somebody found it, knew what they were looking at, and went, "Oh my gosh, this is the original Death Star from the 77 Star Wars. This is priceless." Was able to acquire it, restore it, and so forth, and now it's in good hands. Some of these things. We'll go ahead and cover this as well here. KDHL, Dorothy's ruby red slippers are up for auction. This was a recent story, folks. November 7, 2024. I remember seeing this across my feed right here. The ruby red slippers were iconically worn by Judy Garland on The Wizard of Oz, then stolen by a mobster, then found by the FBI 13 years later.
Mobster?
Taking another turn. Yes, in their trip down the yellow brick road of life to the auction block. And don't worry, you already can't afford them. I believe the stated price, the auction ends 1 month from today, 11/7/2024, and is already over $800,000. Yeah, they were stolen in late August of 2005. The FBI announced on September 4, 2018 that they were finally found. An ex-mobster named Terry Scary. Terry, come on. No, not mobster nickname.
Barry Terry? The Berry Place? 28?
He went full cliche and swiped them, looking to make, quote, one last score. Very interesting little thing right here. But I believe why can't I think of the name right now? Oh, Lou's gonna kill me. Hang on here.
Billy Gardner?
No, the gentleman in charge of MGM Vegas. Who am I thinking of? we just had a show covering him completely. Let me see.
I just said MGM, and I'm like, Harvey.
Yeah. Let me just see here. Chat, help me out. Kirk Kerkorian. Sorry. Oh my goodness gracious.
There we go.
Kirk Kerkorian, when he acquired a lot of MGM back in the the 1960s, 70s, 50s, that area of time there. Unfortunately, when that actually happened, he didn't really have much care for a lot of this memorabilia either. He would either
answer immediately.
Whoa, phone call.
Whoa,
I apologize. Sorry about that, guys. He would either take these film props, either put them into the MGM hotels that he was building out in Vegas, or he would just sell them. basically, in order to cover a lot of the studio sets at the time. And so a lot of that memorabilia just went away. So I do agree with you, Nolan, a little bit of diversion here on the show, but I do agree with you that some of the cinematic history is very important to preserve for definitely future generations to enjoy. And I would love them to be displayed in any place where they could be publicly available. I'm a huge proponent of that, and I do agree with you, Nolan, on that front. I guess that leads us to our last story right here. And in keeping with this theme of film props and iconic iconography, memorabilia from some of these classic films, these amazing films that we've experienced here, I think that leads us to this story coming out of Universal Studios in Orlando, or Universal Studios Florida. We talked about the parade that they have, the Mega Movie Parade. It is awesome. It is fantastic. But when we were covering the Mega Movie Parade originally, well, what's interesting about that is that they've added to it ever since we started covering the Mega Movie Parade. And so they've added floats, they've added characters, they've added different things in order to really pump that up. The delayed rollout, I'm not sure what that's all about. But one thing is for sure here, you can see right here, Nolan, you're going to really get a kick out of this. Here we go. The Ecto 1.
I can hear the music already.
Yes. The Ecto 1 has officially made its debut as part of...
I love the Stay Puffs.
I know.
Oh, it's even smeared
So
on
great,
the window.
right?
Disney would never do that. That's so cool.
They would never do that. I think it's pretty freaking awesome right here. The Ecto 1, I believe this is the most recent incarnations of it, but you can see has made its way to Universal Studios Florida. I think this is a really cool story because even if something debuts like the Mega Movie Parade, where you see all these amazing things and you're thinking, oh, what more could they possibly ever do? They keep bringing more stuff out. They keep adding to it. They keep plussing it and giving fans what they want. I think the Ecto 1 was a notable missing element of this parade that is now finally finding its way. And I think this is super, super cool. You can see some more video here.
You got one on the tires.
Yes.
Oh, so cool. I kind of like that Universal stuff can speak so many volumes that they don't have to rely as much. I feel like, correct me if you feel otherwise, but I feel like they don't have to rely as heavily on their, cast members because Disney, they have it down to a science, it needs to be written a certain way. There's the Disney image and stuff. Universal, I feel like so often they do such cool props, with the Ecto 1 and the big display behind them. The fact that, some of these actors and actresses don't even look that much like the characters. If you see the employees in the car, they're just kind of playing around a little bit. It's not one for one Egon or anything like that. But the spectacle just gives so much pizzazz to it that doesn't really matter. It's just fun. It's Ghostbusters. It's iconic. They always seem like they go for what's popular. Is it like the original Back to the Future movies, the original Ghostbusters movies? It's iconic. It's not like one of those where it's like, hey, it's like it's Star Wars, but it's the sequel trilogy, and it's not the sequel trilogy. It's based off the sequel trilogy, to where it's like a offshoot. This, I feel like, will do miles, and the longer I look at this thing, the more happy I get. So thank you for sharing this in my life right now.
I know. I love these stories because it's giving the fans what they want. They want the Ecto 1. They want these things to be part of these parades right here. I will say I would like the DeLorean to be part of this as well, but I'll take this, I suppose. The Ecto 1, obviously, it's inseparable from the original Ghostbusters films, and it has been used to various effect. In the recent incarnations, I'm specifically referring to the 2016 version. Oh boy. But it is still very much beloved by fans, still very much engrossed in the lore of that universe right there. It's super cool that they're giving fans what they want. And look, to create a vehicle like that, do they have to go all out to do it? No, but they did, and I think it's better for it, and I think the fans really enjoy stuff like this. I love how the little marshmallow man is taking the light out of the the dome light up there. That's super, super cool.
It's like the opposite of a cursed image, those photos you look at, and the longer you look at them, the more wrong they look. The more you look at this, you can just see all the little details they made. Like, it's so fun. And like, I see these and I'm like, man, you just want to tell more people to, you start becoming like a walking commercial for Epic Universe and Universal Studios. Like, I'm still hyped over that Star Trek Next Generation bridge that they have coming to Hollywood, to where you get to sit in that. Like, this is the kind of stuff that used to be the hook that Disney had. And I gotta say, the Universal has spent their money pretty wisely and has employed some very talented people. And I really hope that they and the public are rewarded over the course of like the next 2 decades or so, because it looks very promising. And I want to stay that way.
I think they will be. I think what Universal is doing right now, I think switching from a more customer-oriented approach, I'm actually surprised in that last story that we actually covered about Dollywood that they didn't rank higher, because I've seen that the customer service at Universal has really been top-notch. And if it hasn't been, they're at least really attempting to improve customer service on that end, handing out a whole bunch of surveys, really doing things to kind of spruce up their reputation, their name, especially as it relates to Disney. I think it's awesome that Universal is dedicated, or at least seemingly dedicated, to really delivering fans what they want. It's interesting. We covered a story, Nolan, about how Fantastic Beasts apparently is not going forward with its film franchise any longer. It seems to be dead in the water. How do you feel about something like Epic Universe, for example, developing something based partly on that franchise in the form of Harry Potter and Ministry of Magic at Epic Universe?
Honestly, I don't think it's really too big of an issue, because Harry Potter, part of the mystique is the greater world. And Harry Potter is very lucky to be in a franchise point right now where it hasn't had an awful reboot yet. Looking at you, HBO series that's gonna suck. But it's just seen as expansion of the world. Like, it's kind of like, I feel like taking Star Wars, about going on like 2 decades ago, and you base something off the prequels. Is it going to be as popular as the original trilogy? No. Is it going to be more divisive? Yes. But at the end of the day, Star Wars fans, a good majority of them, even if it took some time for a lot of them, accepted that as canon and as a part of the world, and still got hyped over certain things, like seeing Darth Maul, Kamino, Kashyyyk, a lot of the stuff in Revenge of the Sith. And to not go too much into Star Wars, really, I think it's just a matter of, it's based off something that's of a very popular brand that isn't as popular. Man, if this was Disney, they would have already have made like 3 attractions based off Fantastic Beasts and a whole mountain that would be the ice store image of the park. Universal, I have to say, has been much smarter with their properties. I mean, like, take Epic Universe. They're basing, you got Mario, which is an established brand, been around for a while. They're going right off the games. They're not even really going for the movie that was proven to be popular, but you don't know where the sequels are going to go, and I hope it continues to be good. You got the Universal monsters, and while there's some stuff they have with some newer characters and stuff, it's still, the soul of it is still with the classics, and that these hold the test of time. So instead of basing it off of, could you imagine how awful it would have been Epic Universe if they based it off like the Tom Cruise The Mummy, or the Mummy remake they did like a decade ago, or the Wolfman remake they did like a decade ago that also wasn't good. They have played it wise and smart, and I think just having one portion of it based off a not as good Harry Potter, I don't think that's gonna do as much harm as what Disney is showing with like Tiana, for example.
And I suspect that there might have been ideas or ambitions to maybe incorporate Dark Universe, like the actual Dark Universe that Disney, Universal was developing with Tom Cruise and that whole thing. Johnny Depp, I think, was going to play Invisible Man at one point, into Epic Universe. Like, I think that they were they might have thought about that synergistic exercise right there, but held back and said, you know what? No, we'll give the fans what they want.
Good move. And then if it does well, then you can do like, okay, the brand's proven itself, then let's bring it in. You don't do like Galaxy's Edge and just assume everybody's gonna love it and then now you have a big eyesore as a part of Hollywood studios that looks empty most of the time. There's nothing wrong with promoting your current movies. I've seen that happen a lot. In fact, the King Kong ride at Universal, it's really fascinating how that Kong is based off the Peter Jackson Kong as opposed to the Skull Island one, which came out like a year or two afterwards. And even then, people who are King Kong fans, I say it as a Godzilla fan over here, people love like the little trivia. It's like, ooh, this is the nerdy things where it's this variant of the monster. Oh, it's this variant. You could talk about it in the queue. And then when the new movie comes out, hey, let's have a guy dressed up as the modern iteration. It gives them even more reason to come to the park, theming. It just goes a long way. Oh, I love this attraction so much.
Yes. It's kind of funny because at Universal Studios Hollywood, which is the one I'm more what is the word there? I am more used to, let's say. I will say that developing a tram pull through in the way that they did with Reign of Kong was a very interesting exercise there, and I think they really got this version of that whole thing right versus like Fast and Furious, for example. I don't think that worked out for Universal Studios Florida, but I think Reign of Kong.
And Marvin's gonna kill me, but I don't think Transformers worked out either. I said it. I didn't. Not a fan of that one.
Oh, well, it's an interesting idea. I think Spider-Man definitely did that whole thing a lot better.
Agreed.
But Reign of Kong to first of all put a huge animatronic, King Kong at the end there, I think was the creme de la creme. That was awesome.
Yes.
Fleshing it out with a storyline before, I think, was a smart move. Doing some little figures. The cue for this is absolutely incredible.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite lines ever. Because if I could just geek out about lines for a minute. Yes, I'm going to geek out about the queue. Because Universal, as someone who's been to a lot of theme parks and has been in that sun, and I don't like waiting in lines, in case you didn't know that. But I am that fast pass person. I don't like waiting in lines. And people give me mean looks when I walk by them, and I walk by with a smile. But I just want to say, the queues at Universal Studios are a work of genius because almost every queue, you're inside. Florida is hot. Like the Kong one, it's nice and cool. Jurassic Park, the Velocicoaster, even though the whole ride is outside, you're literally inside for most of the queue setting up the story. I know it doesn't sound like rocket science, but for people like who are used to, general theme parks, just putting something inside during the sun and making it good theming is just such a godsend. I might sound like a dork praising the lines this much, but I can't go off enough about how I think it's like Dollywood, as we were saying earlier. The little bit of extra quality just makes all the difference in the end.
I love Griffin's comment right here. Here's the difference between Universal, Epic Universe, and the Bob Iger company. Universal's main goal is to entertain. Bob Iger's main goal is to educate. I think you're exactly right, Nolan. When you look at like the queue, for instance, right? Imagineers of the past looked at that as like Act 1 of what you were going to experience. So emphasis was placed on the queue to set up the experience that you were going to have. I think one of the best versions of this ever is the Indiana Jones queue for the Indiana Jones attraction at Disneyland. Now, the Imagineers had something to contend with. They had to get you back there to experience this attraction because there was no land in Adventureland to put it proper. So you have to walk, I think, like a quarter of a mile stretch to get back to the show building where this adventure actually occurs. So the Imagineers use that time in order to set up this entire experience, get you down deep into the jungles of India, and really transport you to a different time and place. And it's done to such an effective degree that I think a lot of some of those elements were incorporated into the Reign of Kong attraction that you were talking about before. And it really sets up that experience in a way that they couldn't possibly, let's say, with a pull-through over there at Universal Studios Hollywood. That's the big differentiator between parks like, let's say, Six Flags or Cedar Fair or Cedar Point, and experiences from the big two. It's those little things that elevate the experience, maybe even before you even get onto the attraction itself, like the queue, the amazing ride vehicles, the story, the theming of the land that you're actually in. All those things really present something that is completely otherworldly and is consistent with that escapist element that I think people are looking for when they actually go to these parks. So it's absolutely amazing. I agree with you. Universal delivers, and I think they're going to deliver big with Epic Universe. To see them not forget, though, about their current experiences like Mega Movie Parade and keep plussing them, keep adding to them, that's something Disney used to do. Really, really cool to see from Universal.
Beautifully said.
Absolutely.
It's a gateway to magic, and apparently now the magic's at Universal. And if you're guys, if you're watching the audience right now, I know we sound probably like the Come to Epic Universe commercial right now, but I'll tell you right now, if we're geeking out about ride queues and immersion before you're even on the freaking ride, it means they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job, and we can't sing the praises enough.
Absolutely. I'll end it with this. Aldo Casabona, 2024 Imagineers look at obstacles as things to avoid. Imagineers used to look at obstacles as opportunities. Shout out to Disney making guests wait in the open sun for characters with no shade, yet the characters get 15-minute breaks every 15 minutes. I know. It's just those little things, by the way, even shade coverings and so forth. Disney used to be really on top of that. Now you have entire lands that don't have shade, like Toy Story Land, for example. It's crazy. It was brilliant. Insane.
When we did our trip to Universal here, like 2 or 3 months ago, we went at a time when it was a lot hotter than usual, and unfortunately, it was the time of year we had to go. We're more of those people that like to, go during the off season, like more around like February and stuff when there's not those big crowds and stuff like that. But I remember it was really hot, and I don't handle the heat very well. And it was just, we were doing this thing where we kept like, we're not going to overexert ourselves. We're just going to try to give us the best experience we could. We would like bounce between, because every place would have like water stands. They have it structured so well to where there's always like a gift shop or like a little usually even like a food place and stuff. And there's plenty of roofs, and it's structured in a way where even if it's a hot summer day, you can take time to cool yourself down, give yourself a break. Because I'm sure everyone in the audience has probably heard those stories of people who went to Disney and they didn't have a good experience because they went on a time where it's like, it's super hot. Magic Kingdom was made way back when. It was crowded. I had nowhere to get shade. I felt dehydrated. Universal, I don't know how much of it was intentional, but the way they have that thing structured, you can realistically go even at a hard time of year and still have a good experience to where your body's going to feel healthy at the end of that. And I just have to give my hats off to that.
I will say, when we were visiting the Disney theme parks this last year in the summer of 2023, in like August, which was, God, it was so hot. I had a much less pleasant time at Disney than I did at Universal. Mainly because Universal, I think, was a lot more thoughtful when it came to the considerations made for things like shade and guest comfort and all that. It's I don't know. It was just something I felt. But,
and we meme on the Bob Iger comment how often, about the whole "it's too dang hot" thing about that. That's why the guests aren't here. Universal took that as an opportunity. Like, hey, let's use this as a chance to sell them more, sell them water, sell them little fans, sell them food, gift shops and stuff.
Put a lot of their experiences inside and indoors and covered.
Yeah. Why not? But get sucker people into buying $15 ponchos, and I'm not making that up. Or actually, I think it was more than that. What in the gift shops, as opposed to here's our little microtransactions on your phone that pays you to breathe, basically. Like it's smart business as opposed to used cars man type mentality, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I'm all for it as well. The mom here with 199. I referenced this before. I just wanted to say thank you, though. I know we started a whole conversation with that. I just want to make sure that you were not forgotten there. Thank you so much for the donation. Everybody for the support. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And also, too, I did see your comment there in the chat saying that Vash bring up Ruby slippers on Sunday. I will. I think Lou will absolutely get a kick out of it. So we will bring those up.
Can you check the private chat, please?
Oh, private chat. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. That's a good point there. I set up the redirect even before the stream went live, Nolan, to Toontown TV, because that was always the intention to keep the party going. Toontown TV is going to be coming up right up next. Don't touch that dial, folks. Before we actually get there, Nolan, tell everybody where they can find you.
You know, Ron was just talking about his header being dated, and now I'm looking at mine. I'm like, yeah, that hair, no beard. Oh boy, I need to update mine too. Anyways, yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Nolan Thunder. I cover various internet mysteries, particularly usually with video games. I basically do those UFO shows you see on History Channel, but with video games. I got props. I got old school 80s synthesizer type music. It's a mix of like documentary, comedy, and B-movie horror. So if that's something that appeals to you, I have a whole video up on my channel of a secret found in the Korean version of a Super Mario game that had another game hiding inside of it that had to do with cats. It's a very bizarre story. So if you want to see more of that, I have a video about the secret in Super Paper Mario. So please check that out if you're interested. But I will say, though, if you want to see more of me and my opinions, in just a moment here, I'm actually going to be on Toonie Talk here soon with my wonderful co-hosts. We got Kevin Apollo, we got Trish, we got Martin, we got Spencer. We got the homies in town. Lauren will probably be there. We always have such great people there. Maybe people pop in and out. So if you like Marvin stuff, come check it out. He actually won't be at the stream today as he's away from action. So Mr. Kelvin Apollo is hosting. So be sure to check it out. I'll be there and it's going to be a lot of fun. We cover a lot of fun media stuff.
Absolutely. Yes, I know Marvin is away and I know what's going on there. And well, I'll leave everybody in the dark here. How about that? I'll have Marvin himself tell you, but I will say, congratulations. You can share that to him when you talk to him, Nolan. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining us for this stream. I know these are a little bit longer than what we've had previously, but very much thankful that everybody has joined us and stayed with us here for all of this. I know there's been a lot of changes and so forth, so thank you for keeping up with that. Yes, yeah. When's the Disneyland TPP meetup? I know we have had talks and conversations about that, about how we could actually make that possible. Maybe, I don't know, some cons and so forth. Who knows?
Carousel progress with friends. Yes, must have this in my life.
I know. Oh, that would be so cool. Nolan, we gotta go to Florida together. We're definitely gonna go to Epic together. I think that would be super cool. And yes, thank you, Aldo, for for hanging out with us and actually contributing in the chat right there. We absolutely love that. So thank you so much. We love our everybody.
They're good people.
Absolutely. The mom, Nita, Josh Hammond. I know Spencer McCooley was hanging out in the chat there. yes. A lot of people were in the chat. Tom F, everybody, TC. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us for the length of our show right here. If you would like, if you haven't yet, please subscribe if you haven't, because we've got some great stuff coming out, like the Genre Guys, for example. We've got Hollywood Backlog with Lou and you every single Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We have this show every Thursday live at 5, as Nolan would say. I absolutely love that. I keep using it. Thank you so much for that, good sir. We have content every single day, 2 videos a day. My goodness, there is no reason why you shouldn't hit that subscribe button right now, because we are going to be dedicated to delivering the best content that we can possibly for you. You're going to be redirected right now to Toon Talk TV. Don't touch that dial, but on your way out, please go ahead and like this video. If you did like this video, share us out, as it helps us out tremendously with the YouTube algorithm. And thank you so much for joining us here on T3PO Live, or that pod place. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.